Hello, everyone, everywhere. It's Spurs Diehards Tottenham till I die. I see the heads nodding. I almost wanted to start with like, "Oh, welcome to the stream." Yeah, I think we all feel a little bit like that inside.
I've still
I
got
just want to say,
the vocals, yeah.
right. I just want to say, welcome, champions. Welcome, one and all.
Yes.
Welcome, silverware winners. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the champions chat. Oh, it feels good, doesn't it? Just breathe it in. Breathe it in. I don't think we're over it. We're not going to be over it for a minute. I was going to try and structure this show somehow, some way. We'll go over the minutes. We'll go over a couple of bits, but I think we're just gonna see where it takes us. I'm here with my usual cohort, Adrian. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm like most Spurs fans. I've got a warm glow inside, and I'm sure we're going to take the afterglow into next season.
Absolutely. We're also here with an illustrious panel, all of which are my American brothers from another's mothers. We have Eugene. How you doing?
Man, I'm spent mentally, emotionally. I'm
Guys,
buzzing
Jed
still.
spent. Jed spent.
Yeah. I've been, like I said, I've been locked in my room, just ingesting all the content, all the emergency streams. My wife is probably angry at me, but I'm just, content. It's been amazing.
Happy days. Raktos Madness with that beard combo and the glasses. There should be Raktos Madness. How you doing, buddy?
I'm on cloud 9. Really, I'm at the point now where I am just everything is kind of washed over me, and I'm recognizing that we're in the Champions League next season.
Yeah.
We got a lot of money coming towards the club, which hopefully some of that can be moved into the war chest for the summer. Arsenal cannot say that they are champions of Europe ever. We can say that we are champions of Europe again. And wow, it's just an amazing feeling. It's such a wonderful feeling. And after that parade today, watching the parade, I'm so envious of Adrian being able to go and people being able to go. And just a wonderful feeling.
Hopefully this will be the first
envy thing, Alan. I'm envious of Drew, because the last 3 Fridays he's been out and do positive shows, and me and him couldn't even get a win under our belt. Right?
We were gonna speak a little bit later on about them lot up the road. We were just going to touch on it briefly and just kind of ask the question: how far are they away from some sort of European Cup? And I can actually just nip that in the butt. They're about 4 miles away, just down the road at the stadium. That's where it is. Jack, my happy clapping brother, you have been this season. Oh, I mean, we've all been through the roller coaster, but I think there have been times where you've been exceptionally up and exceptionally down, my friend. This is the one that kind of lifted those spirits. I can't see you coming down for a minute, right?
No, I think I've said I've gone full Dermatron mode for probably a season now. Yeah, you're right. Like, it's probably tested this season, my happy clapper ability. I have probably admitted, though, that I am a bit of a roller coaster guy. I just sort of go through the ups and downs, as hard as anyone else. Like a 1-0 win over Fulham, I'm there having the beers out, getting the pizza order in. And then if we lose 1-0 to Fulham, I pretend as if it's the end of the world. So I sort of, don't really fluctuate in the middle pretty much ever. But this is really just a time where I just feel like almost I've lost a lot of weight, in the last year, but I feel like actually the weight of Tottenham Hotspur has finally been lifted from my shoulders. Like the tension, the constant sort of, which I live for, the debates, and the discussions of, where do we go from here? It's just all that is kind of just now been lifted off my shoulders. I feel like, it's I don't know what to describe it really as, but it really is just sort of like as if you had this looming tension that just you never could get rid of. and then finally it's gone. It's like a ghost or something has finally just left.
Like an albatross.
Yeah.
And as well, it makes you like, and if we're feeling like that as fans, I mean, how are the club behind the scenes feeling? Like, you would think that, and I know there's an argument that those behind the scenes and maybe those players and maybe the coaching staff have not quite been through what we've been through, because obviously, I'm 45 years old. I've been a Spurs supporter for as long as I can remember seeing blue and white. So, I mean, it's ingrained in us. So, but I just think you've seen the parade today, the footage, everything that's sort of happened the last couple of days. I mean, even now what's doing the rounds, the little short that's doing the rounds of Ange Postecoglou hugging his wife and kids on the pitch, things like that, I think actually kind of humanized the guy again when he's been sort of vilified by a lot of people for a lot of the season. And even just thinking about it now, I mean, it's kind of giving me sort of goosebumps. I just think this has hopefully shed, if we're a coiled snake, this has shed that skin that's been around us for a long time, that's finally going to allow us to show what we're made of and what we're capable of. Well, we'll start with, I'll just give a quick shout out to a few people in the chat. I really appreciate you joining us. I mean, obviously, I know lots of things going on today. I'm sure there'll be people joining us as we move along, but we've already got 30 people in here, so it's much appreciated. Mr. Graham, Spurs GC TV, already half cut, and I know that because I've already chatted to him earlier on. He happened to mention that he was having quite a good time today. So big up to you, sir. Big up to Peter Kagais, always in here and always telling us the time in Melbourne. So I appreciate that. We'll start
Drew, just before we go into details, like, I just find it so interesting. So, Jack, Alan, and I, obviously, we're not from London, unless I'm missing something. So we don't have those like familial ties, right, with Tottenham.
Right.
And here I've seen my teams win 7 championships after decades, Warriors and Giants, right? Like 7 championships. And I've never cried, ever. Right. And being in the bar with other like 50, 60 American Spurs fans, just when the whistle blew, I teared up. And then when I saw Son cry, I just,
Oh, at the stadium,
I started bawling.
Stadium, I've never seen
happened to me before.
tears of joy,
So
mate.
it's just
Not
really
me, but I mean, I've never seen so many. No shame in that, though. No shame in that.
Yeah.
No. I was right there with you. I think, Eugene, I didn't think I thought it was just going to be happiness, right? And I really did. And I've got this, I mean, I'm going to go too morbid, but I've got this little picture of my mum and dad over here by my side, and they were Spurs fans through and through. I mean, my dad told me about the Crew Alexander 13, the 30 goal game so many times. Like, he's almost like Uncle Albert vibes from Only Fools and Horses, where it's just like, one too many times you've heard this story. But yeah, that final whistle went, and I looked over at that picture, and it just kind of set me off. And then Sonny, like you say, you see him, and then him and Madders, and you're just like, "Oh, cut it out, boys." You know what I mean? I'm a grown man, and this is a sport. Like, what we doing here? But we'll carry on with you, Eugene. We'll start with the team. Obviously, I think to a certain extent it was sort of picking itself, but there was the argument that maybe Tell should start. He'd done enough to start. People wanted Richie. People were saying, "Oh, and we haven't got a designated 10." So maybe I was one advocating for maybe putting Solanke in a sort of a 10, playing Richie up above him, and then doing a Sonny or Tell on one side, Johnson on the other, and just kind of putting balls in the box and maybe just trying as best we could to use what we had to nullify what they had, because their best thing is their defense, or arguably. So what were your thoughts? I mean, when you saw the team, was it like, yeah, that's what I expected, or were you kind of, where the hell's Son?
So that was the big call. I'm very superstitious person when it comes to sports, and I was just hoping, like, let's not make the same mistake that Poch did with Kane. Yeah. We saw Sonny play last week. He was more lively. Again, no end product, a little rusty, but at least his pace was somewhat back. So you could make an argument, Son as a captain, he should play. And I was hoping that Ange would make a big call, and it took some guts, to say, hey, Sonny, you're going to come off the bench. And for me, just from the superstitious perspective, say, you know what, let the manager make the tough call. And Richie, even though I've been slagging him off for a couple of years now, I don't rate him, but what he showed me in Europa, especially last few games, his work rate, his shithousery, just his engine, and just him doing the dirty work, and just him and Solanke up top just gives us that, that energy that we needed. And given that we were missing all the creativity, right? No Madison, no Kulu. The only person who could pass on the team was probably Poro. So the only way I felt like we're going to score a goal or, be in the game would come from crosses in the box. And we needed engine and legs, right? So when I saw Sar at the 10, even though again he's not overly technical, but having him at the 10 that he could run, Solanke can run, and Richie can run. For me, I mean that was the only way that we could win. Just control Ahmad, stop him. In the first half, he had us a bit. He had Udogi on skates sometimes, but Richie was doubling him, especially in the second half. And if we could control the Bruno, I felt good about the game. And as you said, Ange didn't have a lot of options, but having Son come off the bench, for me, that was a gutsy call, and that was a good call. And everybody else, as you mentioned, everybody else picks, themselves. So I was happy.
Yeah, fair play. Alan, what were your thoughts on the initial starting lineup?
I thought he was going to go 4-2-3-1. I thought he'd have Richie way up top, and then Tell, Solanke, and Johnson. Just because he's been playing Tell a lot, and Tell is on loan. We only have him for one more game, and then he's done with his loan, I guess. So I just thought that he'd been favoring Tell. Tell is quick, and Tell can be dangerous. And if anything, he can draw away a defender if he needs to, because he's quick, and it's sort of, so I thought that's what he was going to do. I'm glad he didn't, because he obviously did what was right and put Sar in, and Sar, of course, did what he did. And that's why he's the coach and I'm not.
Yeah, for real. He made. I guess there's an argument that he made. I don't want to say a bigger call than Poch made, but I guess I think there's something to be said for Ange and sentimentality, and I think that's that he's not really having any of it. I mean, I think that he's gotten a little bit closer to these players than arguably he's gotten to previous squads. But I think he's also alluded to that a little bit in a previous press conference, I think leading up to the final, where somebody asked him about that, and he said, just getting older, I think it kind of lends itself to that, as opposed to in previous incarnations he's had to, especially in his earlier years, because he was previously the friend and now he's the boss. I can understand why he's needed to maybe felt the need to put that much more separation between him and those players, as opposed to him and these players. And the amount of, I made the point, and we'll get into this, Eugene, because I did see your response in our little chat earlier on in the messages when I said these players love this guy. And Eugene responded, "Where's the love when they're playing for him in the league?" So yeah, we'll touch on that, because I get where you're coming from, but I think there's a genuine sort of bond there between him and them, and I think it is sort of going both ways.
Yep.
But Jack, obviously we had the pre-game, and then I had the pleasure of watching and joining you and Dave as you did your watch along. Your initial thoughts on the starting lineup and how you thought the game was going to progress?
At first, I did want Pop Matasar to play, but then, like with the Aston Villa game, I wasn't sure what his fitness really was, because he was limping off the pitch, and then it felt like, which I'm pretty sure was the case, we only really had 3.5 midfielders available, because Archie Gray has barely played in the midfield this season, and then I'd say even when he has come into the midfield, he hasn't really looked that convincing, to be honest, especially for
Mm-mm.
a big final like that. So to go with all three midfielders, all the ones that you have available, would be a big call, because then they would really have to put in the hard yards for a long period of time. So then, he was, had a difficult situation where his depth was in the forward line. Like, he had a lot of forwards to pick from, but he went with the formation and the shape that has gotten him to this final. I was thrown a bit aback by the Aston Villa game. I was like, I wonder if that's like what he might go with, like a 4-4-2 type of thing, use all the forwards that he has available. But he went with the personnel that I actually would have preferred. But I was also just thinking about needs must. And I thought it was, looking at the SAR situation, I wasn't sure if he actually was really fit for that final, but turns out he was. So I was actually really happy with it, because in a game like that, I think you do just need three hardworking, just absolute bulldogs, in the midfield. And I think Basuma, Bentancur, and Sarr were all of them. Johnson, even though, Drew, I'm definitely not Johnson's biggest fan, I did say he has to start, because the likes of Odegaard and Tell did nothing, in my opinion, to warrant starting ahead of him. And it was a big call to drop Sonny. I think that was a huge call. I actually really did expect Son to start. I wanted him to start. But you also, at the same time, in my opinion, couldn't drop Richarlison. I think Richarlison was probably the best player in recent games in our forward line. Not saying very much, but I do think he was. And I think Ange Postecoglou, once again, got it perfectly right, despite what everyone else might have wanted.
Just put that in your bookmarks, everybody. Ange Postecoglou once again got it right.
Yeah, just
because I don't think
exactly.
Because I don't think this is, especially in this run to the Europa League, and I think I want to go a little bit deeper on this later, because obviously I think I'm as frustrated as anybody that we sacked off the league to the degree that we did. But having sat down with myself and a cup of coffee this morning and in my garden pondering life, I've maybe, I don't know. I'm prepared to maybe give it a pass for a season. I think in my brain, I've kind of worked out why I'm okay with it, and we'll get into the nitty gritty of it later on. But Adrian, quickly, if you will, touch on what you thought about the starters, and then we'll run through the minute by minute, and we'll go from there.
I was with Alan here on the 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, whichever you work. I didn't expect Sarr to start. My fear was we would pick up the book in the midfield, because it's a very tense game. And I thought, well, if you've got to take a player off, who else we got in midfield? You had a Stacey, it was a Cam, and you had a Jai, come and winger Cam, right? No one else. So I would have played, and my team was one different. It was Son instead of Sarr. I think a lot of people probably had the same team. Once, as Jack alluded to, we lost our three midfield creative players, and so he's gone. He went defensively, right? He said he's played differently in Europe, and I'm not having that when he comes out. I mean, I know our managers say a lot of the things they say to do to cover themselves, but he would never been with any other team when he's had the injuries that we've had. So to say, and if he plays differently, he may have played differently, but he was basically forced to play differently in this game. So, in my opinion, but look, he got us across the line. I've got a warm glow inside me. It's not going to go away for a long time. Right. So, So on the team, I'd have just gone. I picked Son instead of Sarr, basically. But that was it. That was the lineup.
Do you not think? If any one of the tens had been fit, do you not think taking out Sarr and putting any one of them, and the result would have been the same, if not better? Or do you think it had to be Sarr in there to make it work?
Well, I wouldn't have done that either, because if any of the 10 had fit, I'm taking that Basuma. but that's me. That's just me.
Right? What do you think about that, Eugene? You're shaking your head. That's interesting. We'll go follow on with that.
You're on mute, Eugene.
You're on mute, mate.
I'm sorry. It's weird. Like on most other topics, I'm so confused right now. I've been slagging off Basuma all year. I just feel like he lacks focus. Man, the games he cost us this season was just lack of focus and mistakes. And I don't know if I want him back. But so he's just very inconsistent. Either he's good or he's terrible. But I do feel like when him and Bentancur play in the double pivot together, I think he makes Bentancur better. So for me, it was if Basuma is on his game, if this is one time he's on his game, he's going to be good. And him and Bentancur they have a strong partnership going. So for me, and maybe it's a dumb thing to say, but not having Kulusevski there, I mean, he's been great most of the season, but I was afraid, like, if he'd be fit, just the way he'd been playing recently, not
He's
great.
been running in
So
treacle for the
actually, him
last few
not being
weeks, right?
available and
Yeah.
forcing Ange to actually, again, just no half measures, just say, you know what, like, either we play our game, but if we're missing those players, we're just gonna go full defense and just legs. So it felt like Bissouma and Bentancur, that double pivot, just especially with Bruno on the other side.
Yeah.
On that, Eugene, if Kula had been fit, because we got the problem with the number 10s, I actually think Johnson would have been the one that might have stood down, because then he'd have gone those three in midfield, which are hard midfield, and then if Kula on the right to protect Porro. I think, but look,
and that's what I was afraid of, Adrian.
We're having fun talking about this. Look, we've won. You know what I mean? No, so, like, and he got it right. He got it right.
But that's what I was like. I agree with you. Like, Ange would have gone with Kulu, but I just felt like he's out of gas. He just doesn't have anything left in the tank. And if you look at our players, the only player that I thought would score was Johnson. He's always in the right place at the right time. Yeah. And I just feel like Solanke is riding on empty, and like the Rich, he doesn't score. So Johnson I felt like was their only outlet, especially if we go defensive. So Kulu on the right.
He's killed the take on, he doesn't score in important games.
Well, also as well, the thing about Kulu, I think he'd played an entire season of football about 25 games ago. I mean, the guy has been absolutely just flogged. So, Jack and Alan, let me open this up to you two, just real quickly before we get on to the minute by minute, because I'm really interested in this. Bissouma Bentancur, that enigma, that axis. Is there an argument that had Bentancur not had the slew of injuries and bans and whatever he's had to go through, and Bissouma hadn't got malaria and done balloons and stuff, like, are we actually seeing are we running the risk of dismantling a defensive double pivot that actually has the potential, if they really bang their heads together and got their acts together, like, that's as good? Because let's face it, I mean, Bissouma, as far as dynamic, like, on his day when he actually really wants to play, he can play. Yeah. Like, is there and I've been one, like, I hold my hand up. I've slagged off Bentancur and I've said things that, I've said he's flattered to deceive on occasion and he's not as good, and Juventus would never have let him go, and he should have, if he was that good, he'd have gone to Bayern Munich, blah, 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 blah. Are we arguably seeing what those two could be in, week out, if we gave it a chance? And we'll start with you, Jack, and then we'll go over to Alan.
I'm very twisted on Bissouma, and also the funny thing is that after this final, I've kind of jokingly said, probably my opinions on players is now nowhere near as harsh. Like, I would probably I'd be like, keep them all, keep Timo as well, like, I'm not at this point. But actually be serious. I just don't know. Drew, you probably know I rate Bentancur a lot higher than I think I do Bissouma. With Bissouma, he just sort of strikes me as this guy. I have friends like this who, like, for a few weeks, they're these type of guys that will just be like, listen, man, I'm on my grind right now. I figured everything out. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be, getting up at 5, getting up at 6, blah, 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 blah. And you see them do it for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're just back where they started, after that 2 or 3 weeks. Like, it's a lot of talk. And then eventually it just sort of goes back to the default setting. And that's what I'm worried about with Bissouma is, I wonder if he knew that he needed to step up for these few weeks. Ange Postecoglou got into his brain, got into his psyche, was able to get the most out of him. But then when we go into a fresh new season, are we just going to see Bissouma on the balloons, in the first game again? Like, that's my worries. He strikes me as that type of guy that just blows so hot and cold. Whereas Bentancur, I hold to a higher standard. I do think he's a guy that is a very, very class midfielder and just needs another class midfielder next to him. But like you say, though, Bissouma, when he is playing well, very few players that you could say like can play better than he does when he is actually on his game. It's just he's such a hot and cold guy for me that I just don't know, with him. I'm worried that like he all of a sudden then, kicks up the feet again and, is going to be partying all summer and, is going to come back, kind of back to default setting Basuma. That's my worry.
Alan?
Yeah, I agree with Jack. We had this problem with Ndombele, right? We couldn't get him super motivated, and we couldn't get him to. And with Basuma, he's not to the levels that Ndombele was, because Basuma's hot cold, and I'm very disappointed with him. I'm very happy with him right now, but in general, I mean, he's been so hot cold, and I was so excited. We got him for a steal. We kind of stole him from other clubs when we first picked him up for a song, and other clubs were like, "Oh man, how did Tottenham do that?" And I thought he was going to be like a mega star for us because of how he was, where he came from Brighton, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was really good at Brighton. So, I don't know if keeping Basuma right now, he's sort of at the height of his popularity, right? He's a European champion. He played in that game. He played very well for these last couple of games. Just like Jack said, I think Ange got into his head. He called him Uncle Ange. And and you could see how happy he was. I mean, you couldn't pry the cup away from him. He was holding on to that thing at the parade, and then before that, he was kind of just all.
There were balloons in it.
Yeah, but they, I don't know that depending on him, we depended on him this last season. We had 21 losses, and it's a lot of up down, mostly down, not up. So with Bentancur is just, he's a bit of a hothead. He's gonna, like Romero, every once in a while he's just gonna lose his temper. He's gonna put in those deliberate tackles to kind of slow things up or to get back at somebody or something like that. And he's also a very physical player. He's willing to put his body on the line. They're all willing to, but some people are not. Some people kind of duck out of headers. Some people, duck out of challenges. Bentancur is not one of those. He will go full on in a challenge. He will try to head that ball. And I think he's someone that we should. Go ahead.
No, you say he's someone we should probably keep around. Is that what you're going to say?
Absolutely. I think Bentancur is someone that I think we should keep around. He's someone that I know people, their teams in Europe want him. And
we do run the risk, like you I think you just alluded to. And we run the risk. I know it's literally, and I think we even mentioned it on the show the other day, how we'd be halfway through celebrations and there would still be people saying, yeah, but he's got to go. And there would still be people like selling players before, I think my granddad used to say, before the body's even gotten cold. Do you know what I mean? It's just like one of those, So, I mean, and I understand, like, it's football, right? It's perpetual. It's ever moving. You want to be better. You want to be stronger. You want to be bigger. But that being said, are we running the risk of dismantling something that is now just finally maybe turned a corner and is, and I want to get onto the minute by minute. I'm conscious that we're veering off of it, but I'm really interested in this subject because I think a lot of the talk over the last few days since we've won has still been, but he should have, we should have done better in the league. And he's even now openly admitted that he threw all of his eggs, he's even come out and basically said, but at the end of the transfer window, we decided that all the eggs were going into the Europa League basket. And essentially we were going to do what we could, but we were, if you read between the lines, I think there's a soft understanding that they'd kind of written off the league. And I think he's even insinuated or implied that there were people behind the scenes in the club that were a little bit, well, what are we doing here? So while I'm really, really frustrated that that was what we did, I'm now wondering whether he's actually, whereas I'm taking a very sort of narrow-minded view of it, and I'm saying, no, you should be doing better. And I'm flippantly not caring about the actual dynamics that go into saying, I don't care, you've just got to do better. But maybe this was as good as it was going to get this year based on what had happened in the season up to that point.
Yeah.
And the reason that I say that is because he brings it up and he says specifically at the end of January, at the end of the transfer window, which number one to me kind of implies or suggests that there was possibly another couple of players out there that they were looking at that they couldn't get over the line. And I think at that point, he decided then, right, there's certain players I've got to wrap up in cotton wool. There are certain players that I think can, go the distance, Porro, people like that. And I've got to manage this squad because essentially it's gotten to the point, and I hate to say it because it was the name of our documentary, but all or nothing, right? It's literally all or nothing, make or break. So he's weighed up and he's gone, okay, I can fight for a league position, and I can maybe with the players that we've got and with how they're coming back and with the length of time it's taken them to get to full fitness, and then you add on top of that the fact that a lot of the teams that he's going to be coming up against, yes, I understand have got injuries, but I don't think to the extent that we had injuries. So I think within the teams that we are playing, they've got units of players that are more cohesive playing together than we have on a week-to-week basis. So he's basically said, I can maybe do 6th or 7th in the league. I can sack off all the cups, and we can maybe hope to qualify for the Europa League next year. Or I can literally put all my cards on the table. I can say, we'll just do whatever we can muster in the league. But damn it, I'm going to put everything I can into this cup. I'm going to win this cup. And then as a virtue of that, I'm going to get into the Champions League and I'm going to do the two things that were essentially on the agenda for this club to do.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you can say, well, he's the luckiest manager in the world. Or on the other hand, you can say he's actually played it really, really well. And this dude is kind of cold as ice.
Yeah.
Now, I'm aware that I've spoken too long, so I'm going to open that up to the room and you guys can
I
tell me
subscribe to that. I subscribe to that. I think he's done a version of, it's not even like putting it all on 32 black, but it's kind of like if you want to just go out with the biggest possible win and you feel like, there's only a few options available and none of them are great, but one of them, if you take the big risk, you get the big kahuna with it. And I think he's done that. And also when you think about it, like a lot of teams have done this. It's not even something that Ange has invented. Like West Ham did the same thing with the Conference League. They finished like 16th or 17th. They were dog shit in the Premier League, but they, they put out their best performances in the Conference League. I've seen a lot of those. The Spanish teams, right, have won this competition on a regular basis. Plenty of them did not finish really that high up in the league. They were definitely prioritizing this competition. So it's not something that's even that new to football, to just once you kind of see the league settle, once you kind of see where you are, you're like, listen, this is our best chance of having a great season and having, a real high to finish on. And, I think he's cleverly, put all his eggs in that basket. But then that also required getting through to his players, that this is what we're prioritizing. This is what I need you guys to show up for me in this, in these games. And it's completely worked out for him, but it's something that we've seen before. And maybe we, in the moment, forget that is something that is actually quite common in football, to start prioritizing one competition over another. And in general, like, this is where I get a little frustrated with people. Like, some people who have said like, oh, like he should be doing so much better, with this squad, are some of the same people that in the beginning of the season were saying this squad is terrible. The squad has gotten worse, since last season. So if that's the case, then he had to prioritize whichever competition he felt like was the best chance of the squad, finishing with some type of silverware, some type of high. And I think he's played his cards excellently, Ange Postecoglou. Granted, if it didn't work out, he would, have probably gambled, a lot on this. But we don't have to say that. So fair play to him. I think I think you put it much better than I did, Drew. I think I subscribe to what you're saying.
I get being all in like that, Eugene. Like being all in like that, you have to have the backing of the players, right? Otherwise, that doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you guys just said. But again, for the sake of the show, I can to be the bad guy to make this more interesting. Like anybody,
you have the
most
bad guy
fans,
accent, so
yeah, exactly. That's yeah. Most fans, if you would have asked, 17th and a European trophy, people would say the trophy for one season, and that's the boat where I am. And just to double click on the Bissouma kind of point, and I think it applies to Ange as well. For us, so super happy. I mean, this is an amazing moment. But if we look at where we want to be as a club in the next 5, 10 years, right? The size of our club and the expectations, we need players and as well as the manager who are consistent. So my issue with Basuma, like Bentancur, you can say all about him, but he's somewhat consistent. With Basuma, and we've seen 3 years worth of evidence. For me personally, he's just not consistent enough in the number 6 role. We need a rock because Bentancur is an 8 in my mind. We need that consistent player that every single week we can say we know exactly what the midfield is. This year we don't. And Bissouma is just too up and down for us to be consistent and competing on all fronts. And that somewhat goes to Ange as well. We saw that he can bring us a cup, the Super Cup, whatever. Like I know he can win an individual game, but same as kind of what I went on about Basuma with Ange as well. We need a manager who's also consistent in the way he views all the competitions. Again, this season is a one-off. 17th in the cup, amazing. But again, for us to be competing for big trophies on regular basis consistently, we need players who we can trust. And like same thing I would say about medicine. And Nige was in the comments. He knows I have an agenda against the medicine. All the skills in the world, but the consistency is lacking. And that's why you see our form dip, right? Up and down, up and down. We need 4, 5, 6 players who are consistent game in, game out. And we need Ange to be consistent in his player management. Because again, like one of the reasons that Kulu is, out of gas is because he's been overplayed in the beginning of the season, I feel like. And Poro as well. So he needs to learn. He needs to be consistent in managing players and with his tactics as well. Like next season, if Ange stays, we cannot just say, we're only gonna compete on one front. That's not gonna fly anymore.
Yeah.
So
to Reese Riggs' point here, big up Reese Riggs, good to see you in the chat. It says, what about his first season? And if I could say, look, what if Eugene, I'll put it to you, like if you took the best bits of the first season and then the best bits of this season. I mean, I know I'm very much picking and choosing, but you see the promise that there was last year and then what could have been this year without injuries. And you think if you can get the best bits of those two things, you not think there's a world that we live in where we can have a team that on one hand can play a defensive double pivot with the likes of a Bissouma or a Bentancur, and then on another hand, when we're coming up against a team that we know we can kind of just run at, we've got the luxury of being able to do a single pivot with 2 10s because you can switch that up and you can do a Kulusevski Madison with Bissouma or Bentancur holding. I mean, if you've got,
we could,
if you so desire.
Like for some reason, Bissouma against Chelsea, what he did just is stuck in my mind. Like, I don't know why, but that moment, where he gave up a penalty, and other moments where he gave up like silly passes that led to a goal against us. I just, again, in a number 6, I just want a rock solid midfielder that I can count on day in and day out and say, you know what, he's not gonna have some brain farts that Bissouma does. Because as a number 6, we cannot afford it, especially if we play styled edge ones, right? The number 6 is the most important, probably, piece on the field. Like we saw with Man City, without Rodri, they're all over the place. So we just need that one rock, and that rock is the number 6. And just for me, again, Bissouma just is too up and down. Again, his skills are not in question. His IQ, his footballing IQ, and his mentality is in question. And just too many moments in big games this season where he let us down. And it's not just one season, right? Under Conte didn't trust him. So again, I could be wrong, but for me personally, as a squad option, sure. But as a day in, day out number 6, he's just not good enough for me.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, welcome in Ian just quickly. Ian, I think I've actually got a little bit of echo on your end. So if you wouldn't mind
Say
turning
something
down just a
Not
tiny
quite
bit.
sure why.
I think I could hear Eugene through your screen, so I don't know. It might have been that. But yeah, how you doing? How's it going?
Let me log out, log back in.
Oh no, it's gone. It's gone now. It's gone now. Hang on.
Okay, not sure.
Give it a 1 2 1 2 1 2. Testing.
Yeah. How many sound engineers did it take to change the light bulb?
Yeah, there you go.
One,
No, you're
one,
right.
two,
You're all right. You're sounding good. How are you?
Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
You were there, Ian. You were there.
Oh, I was there. There are memories that last a lifetime with all things you do in life, and being there on Wednesday night was unreal. I don't know why Spurs, we were all so bloody confident. What happened? Where did that sea change come from? That so many people were so confident. We've got this. Yes, we'll win this. And we bloody did. We
Lads,
did.
it's United.
Well,
it's Manuri.
I never fancied playing Bilbao away in a cup final.
Mm-mm.
And I thought, are we really good enough to beat Man United 4 times in a season? And I didn't fancy that either. But we really did do it. I mean, I'm looking at the comments on the stream and about Ange, and I reckon Tottenham is one of the few clubs that could be having a debate about changing a manager that's just won a European trophy. I mean, I'm not gonna.
The body's not even cold, Ian. The body's not even cold.
Tell me about it. I'm not even going to say everything's been wonderful. I'm not going to say the football this season has had me up off my seat in the days when, I watched Ozzy and Ricky under Keith Birkinshaw and what have you, where every time we got the ball, you were up because you knew something might happen. I'm not gonna go there. But it's been 17 years since we've won anything, apart from the Audi Cup or some other Mickey Mouse trophy.
Water Cup.
And we go and win. In fact, funny enough, Friday night when I'm in Spain is my music night, music quiz night. And sitting next to a table, lovely people, but unfortunately, most of them are gooners. I say it quietly. And there was a little bit of banter going back and forth, all good stuff. And it was wonderful being able to put, days since last trophy, Tottenham 2, Arsenal 1,757. And
loving the cruelty, loving it.
And only Spurs fans can have a debate about saying, yeah, we need to change the manager. Do you know what? Hey, guys, we might not succeed next season. We might get to the first or second international break in 12th place, having played 10, lost 5, won 3, drawn 2, or whatever, and said, you know what? It ain't going to work. But if ever any manager has earned the right to have a go next season, it's Ange Postecoglou. There's a couple of us on the stream, certainly Adrian and I, that remember 1984 with a certain Keith Birkinshaw, who'd won the FA Cup in 1981. He'd won the FA Cup in 1982. He probably should have won the League Cup in 1982, we're one up. Steve Archibald 1-on-1 with Grobler with about 8 or 9 minutes to go. Grobler saves or Archibald misses. We don't get 2 goals. 2 goals wins that game, and Liverpool go up the field and they score, and they win 3-1 in extra time, and then we win the League Cup. We win the UEFA Cup in 1984. So those were, apart from those that lived through the 61 to 63 period, those were the real glory days of Tottenham. And that's the first time we've won a proper big trophy. Apart from one FA Cup, 1991, since then. And people say, no, the manager's not up to it. He might not be. But do you know what? When you recruit people in business and in your companies, and sometimes it takes a while for them to settle down, to learn your culture, to get used to what you're doing and what have you. And Ange is that man. You don't change the manager now. If it doesn't work, fine, you make a change. But to make a change now, to me, is so utterly ridiculous to even think it. No other fan base in the world but Tottenham fans would think it. Having won a trophy, there's people here, some of you youngsters have never seen this. Some of us are old enough to have seen us win FA Cups regularly. European trophies, not regularly. We've not won European trophies regularly, but we have won 4 in 62 years, which is a lot more than most clubs. So to think of, even contemplate sacking the manager now is, to my mind, obscene. Absolutely obscene. A sense of entitlement that just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll move down to Alan quickly, and we'll continue this point before we get into the minutes. We will get into the minutes. But just quickly, because I'm in agreement with Ian, I think the dude's entitled to at least the start of the season, to carry on, to give
100%.
to continue his journey, or to continue the task at hand. And I think, to be honest, given the fact that we're in the Champions League, it might be a little bit of a win-win, because what's the most available thing usually come the end of October, beginning of November, if you really, really need one? It's usually a manager that's been, like, they're usually more available around that time of the year than they are the beginning of a season. Yeah. So I feel like I genuinely don't think that there's as much harm as maybe people think there is, giving this guy 10 games the beginning of next season and just seeing what happens. I think he deserves that, and I think it sends a really, really bad signal to anybody else in football if we as a club sack a manager right off the back of winning the first European Cup that the club have won in 41 years.
What does it say? I'll let other people no doubt want to come in. What would it say about the club? What would it say about Levy? What would it say about us as fans that you win a big trophy, a European trophy, and then sack the manager? I mean, self-entitled pricks is the expression that comes to my mind, to be honest.
Well, let me be a self-entitled prick for just a few minutes. I'll be devil's advocate. So let me. So if I were to think differently, Ange Ball, I don't know that Ange Ball worked. The way Ange played. Look, we lost 21 games in the Premier League. That can't be forgotten. I love the feelings of love and happiness and excitement for the win, but I don't want to forget everything that came before that this season. And
so are you putting, hang on, so just, and I'll let you finish. Are you putting all of the injuries on him, and you're saying that even if we hadn't had those injuries, we'd still finish 17th?
No, I'm not saying that if we didn't have the injuries, we would have been 17th, but I'm saying that Ange tried to push through a system of play that we see didn't work based on the players that he had. And in the Europa Cup, he adjusted play. Like we didn't do a high line against Manchester United. We didn't do it. We played a different style of play, and then we parked the bus when we had a goal. And it was dirty and it was ugly and it got the job done. And I think that's what mattered most. And I only wish Ange if that was a lesson that Ange learned, and if I could see the future, and if Ange could continue that type of adjustment, and not Ange ball or, Ange ball or die, and he was going to be a little more pragmatic about things and willing to adjust to the team, not just to the teams we're going to play, but the players that we have available. Then I could see giving him another season. But if Ange really truly feels that the high line, all out attack is the way to play, I don't want to force him to do something he doesn't feel comfortable doing. If that's truly how he wants us to play, I don't know that I would want to go through another season of horrible loss after loss after loss after loss, just so that we could again have to pigeonhole ourselves into a cup. Let's say we do well in the Carabao Cup. Suddenly we're going to put all our eggs in that basket. Okay, well, at least we won another trophy, even if we came in 12th. And I guess 12th is better than 17th.
It's progress.
But it is progress. It is progress. But again, I'm just kind of thinking of it from the other way, of the other side. Is Ange ball truly what Ange wants to bring? It's kind of like, okay, I gave you a trophy because I said, he needs to get like a pair of sunglasses that are just like Ange sunglasses, so that he can say, so that, yeah, the Ange wear, he can get like Ange sunglasses to say, it's not that I can win things in my second season. I always win in my second season. That's the coldest thing that's anybody's ever said, I think, and it's great. And it has, by the way, that has Arsenal rattled, because now they're saying like, hey, Arteta, is it that you always win things in your seventh season or whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, I'll tell you what. Sorry, cut you off, Alan. Let's because the one thing that is for certain, I know you were mentioning out and out Ange ball there. The one thing that is certain is that the final was not out and out Ange ball.
No, certainly not.
It was very pragmatic. So we'll go through just these. I'll tell you what. I'll roll through the minute by minute here. Eugene, I mean, if you want to sort of follow on, obviously, I think there's a world. The one thing that is in my head from what Alan just said is that there was a lot of if, buts, if, and it just seems to me like we're all in acceptance that, if he was just given a little bit more time, then he might be able to. But by the same token, we don't want to give him any more time. There just seems to be like this, he might be able to do it with a bit more time, but I think maybe I'd rather just try something else. That's kind of, and I'm, that's kind of sort of the vibe that I've been getting from people. So, I mean, with that, he played very.
Can I just say one thing real quick?
Yeah, go on.
One thing real quick.
Absolutely.
Manchester United last season, Ten Hag won the FA Cup with them, and that got him another season. And it got him only so many games, and it kind of interrupted their season. I'm not a fan of cutting a coach mid-season, because I think it's so disruptive to the rest of the season for the players. So anyway, Ten Hag. It didn't work for Ten Hag.
My only comeback to that would be that Ten Hag had already lost the dressing room, in my opinion. He'd already lost a lot of those players. And I think they were all looking around going, why have they done this? Whereas I think there would be a bit more of a. I mean, I could just. This is me.
You could
just
also
being
say Spurs have benefited from manager bounces. Like Conte got us into the Champions League. Jose got us, into the Europa League, I believe, or Champions League from his own manager bounce. So Spurs have actually benefited from sacking manager mid-season and then bringing in another guy to finish high up the table.
The main issue is, and I'm as sentimental as anybody, and Ian, I agree with you, but we need to be careful. We're so happy right now, but the 90 minutes of football cannot change your opinion completely on the manager. So as Sean Butler in his show, he was saying the next season it's a sliding doors the moment, or actually that game. So next season we're in the Champions League. Do we have the money? And the danger is if we stick with Ange, and again, for the sake of argument, let's say we stick with Ange, which is fine. He deserves to stay on. However, if we spend, let's say, $150 million on Ange players, and then again, we had a bad start, Ange gets sacked, the new manager comes in, and we all know how we do business. In the middle of the season, it's going to be tough for us to get anybody, right? It's always tough for us. The new manager is going to come in. The money's not going to be there anymore. The players will be Ange players. And then we finish outside of Europe, and all the progress that we've made, right? The Champions League bounce, that lifeline that we got with this win is going to go away. So we're going to have, a mid-table, a manager with no money, with Ange's players, and we're going to be stuck mid-table again. So whether you think Ange is the guy or not, either you have to go all in or all out.
I feel like Levy's just going to buy club players. He's just going to be all club signings. It's going to be 3 or 4 Spencers.
And honestly,
give me 1 second, Eugene. I'm going to. Jack has got to leave us, so I just want to give him the last couple of. He's going to getting his ears lowered. Irish Hotspur, you got anything coming up this weekend? The watch along?
But watch along tomorrow, which would be like a parade, or it's on Sunday, right? Is when we play. But
Sunday,
things are relaxed. People just stay over here and enjoy the convo. Thanks for having me, Drew. I wish I actually could have stayed on longer. It's just I had this already booked and everything. But good to hang out with you guys and good to see
much love, Jack.
Fellow glowing faces after the win.
Yeah, everyone looks 10 years younger. All the stress is coming out.
So, man, like I said, we've all lost. I think we've all lost a metaphorical weight, in the last 24 hours for sure. All right.
No, we really appreciate having you, Jack. Yeah, as I say, I always appreciate you coming over here. Everybody, go over to Irish Hotspur. You can always catch Jack and Dave, member or not. They've always got some fantastic content. So, thank you very much, Jack. Really appreciate it.
Adios, everybody.
Later, Jack.
Coming on, we'll get you back.
Yeah, and sorry to cut you off, Eugene. We'll get back to you in a sec. We've been going for an hour, so this is the time where Adrian likes to plug the channel a little bit and just give a shout out to everybody. So what we got, Adrian?
Yeah, I want to thank the 64 of you that are viewing this now. I know a lot of you watchers on XCOM, and we got some regular loyal supporters in the chat channel. Spurs Diehards TTID. In June, we'll be a year old. We're doing okay, but with your support, even better. You'll find we won't see it here, but you'll see the little YouTube logo I'll put in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen here. You click that and you can subscribe straight to the channel. It's quite easy. I mean, as shows go out, me and Ian do shows on Tuesdays and Sundays during the season. They go at 9 o'clock, and this Friday's show with Drew, because it's American, we want to give them a better chance of appearing on the shows, Americans, Canadians, and those in the Southern Hemisphere. So the show goes out an hour later in the UK, right? Which is fine. It's not an issue with us. We also have a Facebook group with 14,500 members, with which about 3,500 are active each month. I've got a YouTube, I've got a XCOM Twitter channel, which has got 3,200 Spurs fans. They're the proper subscribed, verified members on there, so they're all good. Post a lot of content on there. We've started a page recently. It's nearly got 300, but the video screen on there as well. And we've got the WhatsApp group as well, the Spurs Diehards TTID WhatsApp group, which, if any of you out there are interested in coming on their shows, all you've got to do is give one of the admins your phone number. We can add you to the WhatsApp group. Yeah, and we like to vary the guests as well, so that would be good. But a big thank you to you all for supporting us, and for the 62 of you that are in the channel now. And we will definitely bring you good content. We pride ourselves on bringing you good content. We pride ourselves on being fact-based as well. And so, yeah, if you like the content, please click that button in the bottom right-hand corner. And thank you all once again. Drew,
Thank you very much,
on
Adrian.
the manager thing, I just want to go back a bit, because we've had people say, I get it that Ange is clueless and all this, but let's be fair about this. There are people out there that have got a different agenda. Get rid of the manager, easy access to more attack the ball or whatever, which is fair enough. I'm not a fan of Levy, right? But you take Ange when he came into this club. He loses arguably the best striker in Harry Kane. We then go 10 games undefeated, 8 wins and 2 draws, which is still a Premier League record. Mickey van der Ven gets injured, which is a blow to us, right? Maddison gets injured, ankle injury. Matty Cash does Bentacore. He's out. Romero gets 1 suspension. Basuma gets 3 suspensions. Players go away on international duty and come back. And we finish 5th, right? For all that, people saying we're playing suicide football. We finished 5th with the injury problems he had last year, right? This year's been the worst injury problem I've known in my history as a Spurs fan. Mind you, back in the day, you had smaller squads anyway, so maybe that's not a fair argument. So, and I thought to get 5th last year, with another win or 2, we could have possibly finished 3rd. I thought he did very well last year. I thought he did very well. But this year, it's been a perfect storm of everything that could go wrong has gone wrong to me. And I would get my argument, what I'm trying to state there in defence of Ange at the moment, wouldn't carry as much weight, if it carries any weight at all at this moment in time, if Ange hadn't won the Europa League, right? Because even I was saying, no, he's gone. But now, such a different perspective now, now that he's won it, because you've got to consider the fact, you bring a new manager in, hang about, the manager's been sacked, he won a trophy. What are you going to do for us? You know what I mean? So it's not easy. So we'll see how this
certainly not.
But just to be clear,
speculate. But Ian, you're muted, mate.
You're muted.
Ian, you're muted.
Sorry, who in their right mind would take the job where you've just sacked a manager who's won a Europa League? Seriously,
Anybody?
Who isn't desperate for any job in football would take it?
But Ian, who would take the job
and smell the coffee? They really do.
But who would take the job 10 games in? Again, just to be clear, I love Ange as a man. I love what he stands for. I love the philosophy that he's trying to instill into this team. Again, all that. And I do agree, he did earn to stay on the next season. If he stayed on, fair play. For me, no issues. I'm just thinking from the perspective is, again, like, are we happy to be a cup team? Are we happy to be just with this moment? Or do we want to kind of, like, nobody's bigger than the club? For me personally, if Ange says, you know what, I'm done. If Sonny, like, walks away, like, this is how we're going to remember Ange and Sonny, I would be over the moon. I'd be happy. They've done what they had to do. And now we'll remember both Ange and Son as legends. But from, again, like, I'm just trying to think rationally. I don't want to be in this position again in a year, 2 years, and 3 years. I don't want to be in position where Man U is right now, where they're shambles, right? We got a lifeline right now for the next couple of years. If we do things right, we can kick on and be with the big boys. And my fear is that we'll be sentimental and not take that leap. So again, Ange, he's a legend, respect to him, but just based on evidence, and Adrian, you mentioned injuries. I feel like a lot of those were based on how Ange managed the squad. Poro, Kolosevsky, hamstring injuries, not
common injuries now.
in Europa.
Most
I feel like if we sack Ange 10 games into the next season, or how, like, 6 months into next season, we won't be able to get a decent manager. We'll finish out of Europe and we'll start from scratch.
Right. My take on this, Eugene, is if you're going to get rid of Ange, you don't give him 10 games in the new season.
I agree. Exactly.
You either get rid of him now or you keep him for the whole season.
I agree.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree with that.
You've got to do one or the other. So
agree.
now it's down to Levy and all that. We don't know if Paratici, if he's going to come in at the end of June when his band's up, or he will have already spoken to Levy anyway if he's coming in about this, that, and the other. And they might have both said, well, we'll wait until after the Europa League, which makes it a bit difficult for them because we've now won a trophy, which Levy can glee over now. But he's also now he's got to get this right. No one's going to blame him. If you was at the parade today, they were singing Coscu's name, right? They were singing his name. So the fans aren't here on social media. We don't know what the actual demographics of social media are, how many people actually watch social media, how many people are expressing opinions, how that compares to our 34 million fan base worldwide. Who's got the I mean, so I'm in with Ange now. I want to be given the seat because I just think if you've done something, you've been successful, you deserve the bonus. And he did. Ange came out with something interesting today, which I thought he's very good with psychology. He said season 3 is better than season 2, which is like, if I haven't paraphrased that right, I apologise. But and to me, he's virtually saying to the ball, look, I've won you something, keep me. That's what he's saying. So
I have a question for you, Adrian, if you don't mind. For Adrian and Ian, I have a question for you, gentlemen. Like Tottenham has been known forever as a cup team, right? Our history, we won cups. You gentlemen, let's say for the next 15 years, would you be happy if Spurs are just a cup team? So let's say 175 years we're in the cups, but the league is we're mid-table.
This is my take on it with the new manager as well, right?
No, just general. It's not about the manager.
We know
in general,
now, realistically, even now, we've won a trophy. We're all happy. Let's keep the glow going, and the afterglow will take us into a new season, right? We know that, right? To me, I know this squad of players are not good enough to win the Premier League, and they're not good enough to win the Champions League, right? We'll face tougher opposition. So we've got a chance in domestic cups, unless we use the money we've gained, the 90-odd million we'll get for minimum being in the Champions League if we go out after 8 games, the 40 million we'll get through this Europa campaign, getting through to play the Super Cup and all that, and any money we get for players' sales. That's 130 million before we bat an eyelid, right? Before even sell it. We'd have well over 200 million to buy on players. Now, on the other end, if we get lucky in the window, because you need a bit of luck if you're bringing in foreign players, you don't know if they're going to be a hit or a miss. If we bought 5 players in, we'd need 4 or 5 minimum. Who knows? You know, so then that might be different. Then we might challenge. So at the moment, I'm looking now, as we're in the Champions League, I'm not looking at Europa League. I love it. I'd love to win it again, but we're not in it, right? Now I'm looking at the 2 domestic cups next season, winning them both, and getting and finishing in the top 5 to get Champions League football again. That's what my expectation would be at the best. Anything better than that, or one of the domestic trophies and finishing in Champions League position again next season. And
Adrian, people said he's a pub league manager. Winning in Australia, no big deal. Winning in Japan, no big deal. Winning in Scotland, no big deal. He's won championships in Scotland. He's won championships in Australia. He's won championships in Japan. I'm not saying he's going to win it.
Australian managers to win a European trophy now. So
I'm not going to say he's going to win a league in England, but I'm saying he's the best we've had in a long
and Ian,
time.
And no other manager is going to take us forward without the right recruitment. We all know we need about 4 or 5 players, and we're talking quality, not oven. They've got to be oven ready, not kids.
I mean, I'm looking at some of the comments in the chat as well, and I mean, you know, I mean, there was 1 or 2. Sorry, I've lost one, but yeah, it was Angelo Tiro. Win cups and Bozo still complain. Go sweep a room. You know, listen, this man has earned his chance. This man has earned his chance to go and try to take us to the next level. Maybe he won't do it, but we haven't been at the next level for 40 fucking years. I mean, come on. You know, it's funny, I got a phone call probably around 7 o'clock, 7 Spanish time, from Ben. Oh, I hear you're down in the ground, about Ben Kaufman, about the where we are. Came with his dad. His dad will be maybe even a bit younger than me. Ben's 30. He's not seen us win much, if anything, and 30. You know, in his 30 years on the planet. And you say, nah, the manager didn't really do that good. Yeah, we know there's been problems. We know there's been injuries. Maybe the style of play has been a problem. But then they say, but the system, the way he plays, just makes injuries inevitable. So what does he do? He stops playing a high line. In fact, he plays not dissimilar. The tactics he deployed against Man United were not that dissimilar to the tactics that Glasner deployed against Manchester City in the cup final, where he played tight lines between the defence and midfield. He went to 5 at the back for the last 20 minutes, which is the antithesis of handball, and he won the bloody game, and he won the cup, and still people complain. I don't get it. I seriously don't get it.
I don't think people complain per se. Like, again, maybe some do. Personally, again, he's our manager. I love the guy. I'll be happy for him. I'm not complaining kind of if he's there. I'm just trying to like envision this club in the next 5 years, right? Like winning a one-off cup, which is amazing for us. But when you say, Ian, best manager, for example, under Pochettino, right? We didn't win anything. But if you look at that 4-year span where we were at the top, like near the big boys in the league, in the Champions League, like I want to see that level of consistency.
You want to see?
Do you think, Eugene? Can I put this? Eugene, do you think it's more down to the? Do you think it's up to the club to provide the quality of player for Ange to be able to implement the correct system? Because time and time again, we bring in managers and then we don't really back them. We just kind of go, oh, well, if you could adapt to what we'd like you to do, that'd be great. And I think there's very much down to we've really got to bring in some more pieces to really fit what he wants to do, right?
I agree 1,000%. It's all
True.
recruitment. But then again, like the question becomes, if we look at players who came in, like Johnson, Solanke, right? Like we don't know who pushed for them. Was it Levy? Was it like Lenga? Was it Ange? But if we look at the players that came in, I think Bergvall is the only one for the present and the future who can say, you know what, that guy's going to be a star. So again, my question is, who are those Ange players? There are rumors, again, I don't know if it's true or not. Ange said no to Eze. I have no idea if it's true or not, right? Again, I'm saying what's out there. So the question is, okay, Paratici comes in. Will he be making decision and recruit for the club? Will Ange recruit for himself? And the players who came in the summer, are those Ange players or not? If they are, we all know those players might not be good enough for us to compete across all fronts. So I'm happy for Ange. He stays on. I'll back him. I'm not going to be Ange out. He earned our respect. But if we take the sentiment out of it and just look at what's best for the club, because nobody's bigger than the club, from the evidence that we've seen from Ange in the past couple of years and the recruitment and the players that came in, like Solanke, Johnson, right? Like Dragoshin, like, is this where
you keep on mentioning Johnson, but hasn't he got like 25, 26 GA this season?
Yeah, again, big up to Johnson.
Eugene, I genuinely wonder if you're thinking this through properly.
Maybe not. I'm still in the clouds.
Hang on, let me make my point. I'm hearing you with your various complaints, and none of us are going to say this season has been perfect. 17th in the league is 17th in the league. But what I never see from anybody is a coherent, consistent plan that says to me, if we implement A, B, and C, we will, not maybe, we will achieve D, E, and F. And the bottom line is, despite the fact that this team has been injury ravaged, has been inconsistent, has at times played really bad football, has come away and won a trophy. And as people say, a complaint about Levy, top four is not a trophy, Daniel. Top four is just putting money in the club's pocket and your pocket in terms of the value of the company. It's not the glory game that Danny Blanchflower talked about. Ange wants to win trophies. Ange won a trophy, and there's still people got grounds for complaint, and I don't understand it. I'm not saying Ange is perfect. I'm not saying Ange is necessarily the way that we will absolutely develop the club. I may be wrong, but the idea that you change manager now, having won a trophy for the first time in 17 years, to my mind, is obscene. It is genuinely obscene.
My take on it, especially with players, when it was Eze, I wanted him. I wanted Dorgu as well, who plays for Man United. But what you have to also take in consideration with this club and the purse strings is the budget that was available at that time, and where did Ange want to prioritise? We know he really wanted Solanke. He's got 15 goals and 8 assists in all competitions, so he's done okay for a first season. Me and Ian have seen far better strikers than Solanke at this football club, right? Don't get me wrong. But in the modern game, he's done okay. He's done okay. So,
Adrian, sorry, I'm going to run and get a drink quickly. With your point that you're about to make, can you link into this, what I've put down here? Would the dismissal affect the squad? Because I think you're maybe going down this route. So if you want to...
Yeah, my take is when I did these questions earlier, I just thought how are the players going to react? They won a trophy under a manager, right, who's shielded them all season. He's took all the stick himself, deflected it, which you should do as a manager anyway, in my opinion. And how are they going to feel if somehow he is suddenly dismissed?
But
Adrian,
do you feel like Ainge played to player strength? As an example, Solanke, right? One of his best attributes was headed goals. And I don't remember.
Eugene, that's a myth. In about 170 games that he's played in the Premier League, he's got 6 or 7 headed goals. You can go and check.
Last season he top in headed goals?
No.
I believe he was.
Go to Transfer Market or whatever and Google it. I'm telling you, he's got about, in 170 games, he's got about 7 headed goals. That is an absolute myth. But where you're right, where I agree with you is the fact that you want to see more crosses in the box, because it's not putting crosses in the box. It's not about always scoring goals. It's about defenders misheading the ball, and then you get an opportunity to score a goal. So it's more than what crosses are more than about. They are about scoring goals, but they're also more about causing chaos for the opposition. They might hit it a couple of times here or there, and you might get another chance which didn't come to the cross, and you score a goal. So that there is.
I agree. It's just again, I don't want to be super negative, but for me, it's like a manager's job, regardless of players that are coming in, is to do the best he can with the players he's giving. And then I'm looking at what happened to Spence, and I'm looking at Archie Gray. I mean, people were dying to see him at the 6 because he's a future 6, hopefully. And even in the games where league games, if we say that league games did not matter after January, which is, if we go with that, how come we didn't see Archie Gray at the 6? If he's the future at the 6, he played everywhere except the 6. So just the management of him, of Spence, of young players, it's just personally, if we take Ange at his word that after January or February we didn't take the league seriously, how come he didn't do more in developing young players, right? Gray, Spence, and so it just. I've seen so many mistakes.
He did turn around and say in his defence, if you look at our team anyway, before you're adding young bloods in there, it's already a young team. I think it's the youngest or the second youngest. Chelsea could, I think, in theory, put out a younger team than us, other than us with youngest. Under Poch, we're the same again. Then you get the runners, right? You get the energy in the legs and all that. So when Sarr was playing, I mean, look, he was the one who picked the ball up virtually on the halfway line, which led to our goal, right? And he drove at Man United, didn't he? He drove at them. He did what you alluded to earlier as a 10, really. And he had, and he was what impacted.
Cherries here.
Sorry, Ian? All right. So, yeah. No, listen, I wasn't happy when the players came back from injury. The thing that I said to people was fine. Back in the day, Ian would know when the game was a lot slow. It'd take 5 or 6 games for a player to get back into get his mojo back. And with our injuries, now the game's so fast, you've got to get your mojo back, and you've got your speed of thought to make the right decisions between your ears. You've got no time on the ball. You've got to better get that spot on. That can take a bit longer for some players than other players. I was disappointed with the last 10 or 12 games, apart from our win, right? Because I said to people, they said to me, well, what are you looking for? What are you looking for, Adrian? I said, I'm looking for growth and progress. I'm looking for growth and progress, and I didn't see it. So I'm in agreement with you, Eugene. I didn't see it. And we just stuck to the end of the season. And I think it got to the stage where the players were more focused on the Europa League, which I'm pleased they were now, so we all are, right, than they were on the league. And it wouldn't surprise me last game, Brighton on Sunday, we get spanked 5-0, and no one's going to give a crap because they're going to parade the cup afterwards, and everyone's going to be celebrating like mad. But I still want the win because I'm a Spurs fan. I don't want us to lose any game, you know. But I get the angle. It is. I would tell you what I'd like to see, Eugene. I wanted to get this season because with a fit squad and the incomings coming in, I'd just like to see him and pray that we don't get. Surely we can't have injury ravaged season like we've had this season. It's unheard of, right? I'd just like to see Ansby have that one season chance of doing it, right, where we're not going to have that amount of injuries. And then if it's not good enough, sorry, you've got to go. I would give him next season. I know you wouldn't.
I can argue with it. And again, sorry, Alan, just last thing and I'll shut up. I cannot argue with what Ian said, what you said. All I'm saying is let's say, assuming Ange stays, look, Van der Ven, we know is injury prone. Like hamstring issues are not going to go away. So he'll miss 30% of the season. Romero, if he stays, he has chronic knee issues, I think. Just right. And if we play how Ange wants to play, we will have injuries. It is what it is. I just want to see him be more adaptable and not just say that's how we play in the league. In Europa, he adapted. Fair play. But like in the league, right? I want him to be okay. Van der Ven is out. Romero's out. I'm gonna adapt to who I have, and I'm gonna be more open-minded. And if he shows in the league what he did in the cup run, fair play. He learned his lesson.
Yes.
I just didn't see it.
Just on that, like people don't know about the system, because I think some fans, and most fans are pretty knowledgeable about football now because they get all these pundits on there showing you balls and stuff like that and all that. But when they talk about, all this suicide football, hang about. When have you seen it? They talk about inverted fullbacks, right? Porro inverts, Udogie doesn't. And when Porro inverts, what I find is, whereas before, when it used to be Porro with Decky, they would get overloads down the right-hand corner. One would be by the corner flag and putting crosses in. I haven't seen that with like Porro and Johnson. Porro would invert, and Johnson's left pretty isolated. Actually, had a very good game in the Europa League. He put a good shift in, actually. But yeah, and you don't see that. On the other side, I see Maddison, who likes to play centrally or drift left. He links well with Udogie, links well. We don't get that on the right-hand side because Porro inverts. And as for this high line, it's an absolute myth. It was in the first 10 games of last season, right? We see that, right? And that press. We see a lot more of it under Poch. You've seen it with Man City, Liverpool this season, Arsenal as well with a high line. You haven't seen that with Spurs this season. How many games have we really played a high line? We've been parked on the high line. I'm not saying you're saying that, Eugene, anyway, right? But
I'm not saying
it hasn't happened. We've been more mid-block this season than at any other time in the last 2 seasons I've watched this club play. And fans say that. But then we have to bear in mind that fans want to, they want to critique the club, right? And I've critiqued Ange this season, his system in games when we've lost them. And I've critiqued his substitutions, as we all have, because we will do that, we're not like 100% happy clappers, right? But I just think certain sections of the fan base or some fans out there, they want to critique everything because they want a change of ownership, which I get. I'd like a change of ownership, So I think they'll use every opportunity they can, or any poor result or PR disaster to do that, which I get that. But I just think, like, hang on. And others, I think, well, you're not seeing what I've seen. I've watched football 65 years. I'm not an expert or a coach, but I do try to avoid what I call, which some fans I think suffer from, other saying deception. I call it perception deception, right? And like, just look at it. You've got an agenda, and you're not, and you want to push an agenda rather than like, see what's really happening at this football club. But back to Ange again.
Yeah, Adrian, I pulled up that quote because just while you were talking, I picked that up on the chat. I mean, to me, that sums it up. This encapsulates where we're at. So, Drew, was it you that was talking about the fact we've been a cup team, but we've never really been a league team? I mean, we won 2 leagues in our
Eugene
history.
was going on about that as well.
We've always been.
Yeah, that was Eugene, not me.
Eugene.
And it might be that.
Although I'm inclined to agree, obviously, and we've only won 2 titles.
But
right?
Yeah, I would love to see us win a league, because that is the ultimate, isn't it? That's the pinnacle. But and this is in a hype, and I so agree with this, and that's why I pulled it up to talk through it. Young players, it's getting used to Premier League pace and the mental side. Does anyone really think Ange hasn't improved the mental side? Well, you had to be there on Wednesday night. You had to see what was going on. The way the players were, and a lot of this would have been off camera, I'm sure, but pumping each other, talking to each other, cajoling each other. They probably went on TNT to a break. The players did a huddle before they went down the tunnel at half time. They did a huddle before the game, they always do. They did another huddle at the beginning of the second half. As I say, I was there. I can't tell you what was on camera.
Ange played a video to the players before the game. I don't know what was on it. Ange played a video to the players before the game. I'd love to see it, but I don't know what it was like, because I think he's very good psychology with players. I think he's very good. I think he's very good at that, And you get the other thing with the young players in, it was like, and no one eulogizes more about Mikey more than I do, right? But you got fans that, we should play him. Mikey Moore's made 9 appearances for this club this season, 19. And he only turned 17 in August, right? Now, that might not amount to a lot of minutes on a football field, but for a 70-year-old to even step on a Premier League, football field, that's what. If I was 17, what would that tell me? I mean, I'd be feeling absolutely fantastic.
But Adrian, you're taking me away from where I want to be.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay, but I think there's things you see when you go to a game. First time I saw Solanke playing up front for Tottenham, I realised just how good he was and the role he plays. You don't get that on the telly. There's no getting away from it. And I know that people watching here from different parts of the world, there's things you just have to be in a stadium to see, to really appreciate. And Solanke is actually one of them. But you had to be there to see how much those players wanted it. You had to be there. You had to see Romero, the way he was pumped up, the way he was, all right, he could, threatening and confronting Maguire. Fine, that's part of it.
That was brilliant.
But the way he was interacting with the other players, the way the players, even Udogie went down right before the final whistle, when they'd missed that last chance, and Vicario was about to take the goal kick, and Udogie went down, and I can't remember who it was now, but sort of like, get up, like, you're not pissing about here, you're not playing injured, you're fucking getting on and doing this. And he got up, and the ball went, and the whistle went, and we'd won the cup all through that game. And I had wonderful seats to see it just behind the Spurs bench, and the players were so pumped up, so ready. That's a mentality that I've seen rarely in my 60 odd years of watching, or coming up 60 years of watching Tottenham. I've not seen that strength of mentality. And I think Inner Hype's got this. Ange has improved. And that's what he does at football clubs. That is what he does. He improves the quality of the team, he improves the quality of the players, and he creates a winning mentality at clubs. I mean, people talk winning in Scotland, big deal. Yeah, there's only 2 teams, you're right. But the Celtic team he took finished 20 points behind Rangers the season before. 20 points, and he won it by 4. And he was actually 6 points behind at Christmas, and he still won it by 4. That takes mental strength. And you can do that anywhere. Those skills are not confined to top leagues or bottom leagues. They're I don't care. We still need to have a long-term plan for a better structure on the football side of our club. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I totally agree with that. And I'm not sure that Daniel has that vision. I'm not sure he's capable. I think he's a tremendous businessman. I think he's a phenomenal businessman. But I don't think he has that vision to take the
Ian,
club.
Are you saying that?
Sir?
Are you saying that with a different manager, not Ange, the players would react differently in the final? I mean, Romero is the World Cup winner. If we're talking about mentality, where was the mentality when Romero gave the ball up 4 times against Wolves, or 3 times that? Like, let's just, again, don't want to be negative, but if we're saying that Ange brought the mentality, fair play. Again, the results are there, but we cannot disregard many other games where the mentality was lacking. The same players like Romero, like Bentancur, Bissouma, who stepped up in the final, they let us down many times during the season. So we just need to be consistent about what the mentality is. I feel like the players, they self-motivate themselves in the big games. Like with Romero, it's clear. He was doubting tools in some games. In Europa, he was stepping up. So like, again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, right? We can't just focus on the final, which every player would run through the walls to win the final. But if we look at the whole 35 games during the season, the players were downing tools, the players weren't trying enough. Our leaders were letting us down, making silly mistakes. And the question is then, if that's the case, where was the mentality from Ange during that part of the year? I'm just asking a question. I'm not saying
Angelo Taro here, right? We cannot play Udogie every game 4 days. This is it, right? Because I don't care who the manager is. If you don't bring in the quality players for that squad, every manager coming to this club is going to fail. We've seen it happen so many times before. 518 days without Pochettino getting a signing. 518 days, and then we did get signings in. We got cheap signings in, and we all know what's happened. Now we won a trophy. We're happy, but the trophy doesn't paper over the cracks in this squad still. We need upgrades because to compete, this is very true, Angelo Taro. We cannot play Porro and Vidi. Porro and Kulusevski have been burnt out. I think Porro's played more minutes than the other player next to Kulu, right? And then you expect, he's off point. He struggled. He's running in treacle night. Well, I'm not surprised. Well, why haven't we got someone to come in and cover for him? The thing is, the squad's good. It's not a bad squad. It's not a bad squad when everyone's fit. But it's not good enough. It's not good enough, and it needs at least a minimum of 5. I would say 5 additions, a minimum of 5, and we've got the money. We're going to get 90 odd million for this. We're going to get 40 odd million for the competition we've just won when we played the Super Cup. That's 130 million, and that's without player sales. And if Romero stays, fine. Even if we get rid of Bissouma, who I want out, Richarlison, who I want out, Then you've got Oiber's got to be paid for, Gill's got to be paid for, blah, blah, right? You're still looking at 60 mil for those players. So you're looking at 200 mil to go in this transfer window. So there's no excuses not bringing in quality. And you're not paying the full amount of the players. So if you had 200 mil and you brought in 460 million pound players and you put 30 mil down on each, you still got 80 mil. All right, Eze with Palace, they'd probably want all their money 60 mil down and won it or something, but that's different. But unless if clubs are going to be that dogged, the selling club's going to be that, stubborn, then you may look elsewhere for other people. But this squad needs upgrades. It needs oven-ready upgrades, and please, no more younger players. I mean, if they were exceptional like Lamar or something, that's different. But they've really got to be. And, and we're talking about, and then bringing them into the Premier League if they're not homegrown here, where you play the English tags. I mean, back to you, Drew. You've been away. You're running the show. Come on.
No, I'm good. I think Ian, were you? Thought you were in the middle of wanting to make a point, and he took over.
No, I made it. I genuinely made it. I think that I just don't get where we are. I don't get our fans sometimes, and I think the idea that there is another manager out there. We've been down this route. That suddenly you press a button and miracles suddenly happen. We win trophies galore. We compete in leagues. Sometimes in any business, in any industry, you need some degree of continuity. You need to agree a strategy, and you need to take it forward. You accept that there will be some way you felt you're ahead of your target. Some days you're behind. But as long as you're genuinely going in the right direction, you stick with it. So that's how businesses operate. But for some reason, football is detached from that. And I think one of Levy's problems is he's constantly looked for the quick fix. I think he's brilliant in some things, and I think he's inadequate in others. And one of the things he's inadequate at is having a consistent, coherent plan to run a football team or a football club. Can run a business brilliantly. I mean, he by profession he's a land economist. He has a double first in from Cambridge in economics and land economics. When he built that stadium, and those of you that have joined me or been there, the goal line bar behind the south stand, and had drinks and fish and chips there. You can bet your bottom dollar that Daniel can calculate to the penny each square meter that cost compared to what revenue it brings in. That's what he does, and that's what's brilliant at.
Alan, you haven't said something for a while. I mean, this player's proved to have a winning mentality. I put this up because I thought, as Ian alluded to, Romero's little tussles with Maguire were brilliant. Showed the spirit and the fight. VDV's clearance off the line to cover for Mario flapping at the ball. Yeah.
Well, everyone talks about that Van de Ven clearance, but what the hell was Vicario doing? What a shocking piece of goalkeeping.
He was kind of shocking for a bit of that game. In the beginning, if we recall, he kind of bumbled the ball out for
shaky.
A corner.
Yeah, very shaky.
He was super shaky. Yes, he had one. The Luke Shaw header was a very good save. Not the header wasn't incredible. It was a good header, and the save was like a quick reaction. He did very well.
It was a well-placed header, wasn't it? It was a well-placed header, which made the save good. It wasn't a powerful header as such.
No. Yeah, I could see Hugo Lloris saving that as well. That's the kind of thing that he was really good at, was those reactionary saves. But as far as winning mentality, I think this game showed us which players do have a winning mentality. Brennan Johnson. I think Brennan Johnson has I think overall he's got a bit of a winning mentality. He showed up for that big game. Vicario is someone that I would say maybe doesn't have maybe he is not the right person for the role. I don't know that he has a winning mentality. He can be loud, but being loud doesn't, and being passionate doesn't excuse all of the mistakes. He flapped. He was flapping in the air over. I don't remember who he flapped over, but it almost gave away a goal in that Manchester United game. Yeah.
No, spot on, Alan. I agree 1,000%.
He is a very good goalkeeper, right?
He is.
He has improved. The save down low to his left was good. He made another one as well. He made 2 exceptional saves, that sort of kept us in the game. I can't recall anymore at this moment of time. And
yeah, me neither.
He did what we've all been crying for ages. We
Kicking
didn't
the
have
ball.
this faffing about at the back. We kicked it long every time because obviously once we got the goal, and look, when people say we wouldn't have brought the set out, I don't quite agree with that. At Frankfurt, we only decided to defend once we got the 1-goal lead, and we were confident we could carry on, and we did the same with Man United, right? Because they were better than us. It was a shit game. They were better than us. They had 73% of possession or whatever it was. But I mean, like, and then it was good to see. There was a couple of scary moments. The ball whizzed across the face of the goal from, I forget who it was, and they shot in the side.
Yeah.
And I'm in the Spurs ground watching this, but even I could see that shot wasn't going in the side net, went in the side netting. And
with Garnacho.
Yeah, and you think glad he didn't start because he looks a live wire. But then they see more of the player than we do, so we can say he looks good. But then, what's he look like then for all season? He's obviously been inconsistent. Otherwise, he would have started, wouldn't he? He would have started to go. So, and I thought Richarlison was superb as well yesterday. I mean, and I have given him so much stick. I still don't want him at the club because, again, like Eugene alluded to, right? It's all right, Basuma saying you're going to see me, the new me now. Hang about. Where you been all season then? Where you been all season?
Yeah.
I ain't having it. I definitely want him. I want to keep Romero. I know fans are mixed on him. I want to keep Romero. I think he's class. He put in a world-class performance, right? But we can get some money for Basuma. We can get some money for Richarlison. Get it? You got a bit for Gill, a bit for you. You know, you can having a 200 mil war chest to go in this window, right? If Levy don't nick 100 mil of it to build the hotel, you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
Adrian,
Romero was really good. Romero won. Wasn't he player of the tournament?
He was, but again, he was great. But again, if we talk about the mentality, maybe we have different definitions. For example, Van Dijk for me, right? He's the world-class defender, right? Like up there.
Same.
The consistency. I would never see Van Dijk do what Romero has been doing. Like again, Wolves, Everton, how many games, right? It's the mentality for me is not the final. It's as a player, it's easy to get up for the final. And if you have world-class ability, it's gonna shine. Mentality for me is having that against the Wolves, against Everton, against, making your team be consistent in those games. And we've seen great captains, great players, like again, Van Dijk, for example. He wills his team to that consistency. And with our players, when we say mentality, maybe it's just my definition, which is a bit different, is like, yep, world-class players like Romero, who won the World Cup, yes, they get up for the big games. But for the smaller games that we need to be winning, we need players who have that mentality of excellence game in, game out. And I think that's what separates us from the other teams. And I want to see that in players and in the manager as well. And kind of that's, I guess, my whole point. That's what I want to see. That mentality of being consistent.
I mean, that's sorry, just that is I completely get where you're coming from, but that's a big ask, right? I mean, you've just said Van Dijk and Liverpool,
but Romero,
pretty well.
But people say
machine.
Romero is close. He's not world class, but he's an elite defender, right? And as a captain, you look to your captains to, right, like to your leaders to inspire and to lead by example, right? So
no, I get it. Ian, I think you're gonna call it a night.
It's 1 a.m. here. I'd
Just
love to
plug your
debate
show
this.
Sunday in before you go. Plug your show. I'm on with you. And I don't know if you've got who you invited, so just plug it.
Yeah, Sunday night. We're going to have a big show Sunday night, a really big show Sunday night after the Brighton game. Yeah, I've got to be up at 7 in the morning. It's 1 a.m. here because I've got to be up for flying home, you know, with the trophy and all that. So, yeah, I'm going to love you and leave you. But, yeah, definitely I'm staying and seeing what he can do next season. I'm fed up of rearranging deck chairs. And what have you. It's time we had some consistency. So yeah, it's wonderful being here chatting after winning the trophy. So I will see you all soon. Drew, I think you're busy on. If either any of you are, you know, I don't think I've sort of been round the houses a bit. But if anyone's available on Sunday, whether here or in the chat, I'm probably going to have a sort of come on for 10 minutes and have you say and go off again, because I can only have 10 on at once. So we've got a few coming on. So anyone who wants to come on, please let me know. Message me through the channel or if you got my personal number. And we're going to have a great show on Sunday night. Really looking forward to it. But I need to get some shut-eye. So great, awesome. Guys. Come on, you Spurs.
Take care.
European champions.
Take care, Ian.
Take care.
See you, buddy. See ya. Alrighty. Well, I'll tell you what, based on this, the players, let's get back to this question. Players proving to have a winning mentality. I'll tell you what, Alan, if this was, I mean, I'm hard, right? I guess I've heard this week that, you know, if this was Manchester United of old, then we wouldn't have stood a chance and they were the better team anyway and da-da-da-da-da. You can only beat what's in front of you, right? We beat what was in front of us. And, I mean, to a man on the field, on the night, regardless of whether the football was pretty or not, everyone pretty much stuck to the game plan and did their job, right? I mean, we've touched on Vicario being a little bit shaky, but for the most part, everyone did what they were supposed to do, did they?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because statistically, and Adrian was kind of alluding to this, statistically, we were not the better team. This is where the statistics don't really show, they don't accurately reflect the game. Because I think I was watching other Manchester United channels because I was curious about how they saw the game. And apparently to them, they felt like we were the better team almost the entire game. I mean, almost on all manner of channels, they felt like we were the better team, that we deserved to win. But if you look at the stats, we did, you know, we only had 3 shots on goal. We scored one of them. You know, we only had like 20-something% possession. And we had so few passes. And so we, you know, on paper, we didn't deserve to win. They deserved to win, but we deserved to win because we showed grit and we stuck to a plan. They couldn't figure us out, you know. And I think that then that's what their other channel, the Manchester United channels, that's kind of what they were saying. Is like we couldn't break them down. Mickey Van de Ven was a wall. Romero was a wall.
Yeah, we're usually a little guilty of being the pushovers, right? I mean, we've been asking, I mean, even all the way back to Mourinho saying we need to be more C words, right? Yes. We were labeled too nice. And I think last night, or, you know, Wednesday, you did see a kind of a different sort of mentality. There was a bit more aggression that we would normally see. We did sort of put the frighteners up them. So maybe there's certainly something to be said for it, right?
Especially people, you know, surprisingly, like Richie. I thought Richie was phenomenal. He was getting physical. He was getting up and down. He was all over the place. And to the point where he ran himself into the ground, like around the 70-something minute and needed to be subbed off. There are players, and I think it's the players that have won, like Richie with Brazil. I think, you know, Romero with Argentina. And Bentancur with
Okay.
with
Juventus?
Uruguay.
Uruguay.
And these are players, and I think they showed the mentality. Romero had Harry Maguire totally spinning, not sure what to do, and all he wanted to do was fight. And Romero kind of goaded him into it. It's perfect because we were concerned before the game that they would be crossing the ball in, and Harry Maguire, with his huge slab of a head, would head the ball in. And it's a legitimate concern because he's been doing that. And if you listen to the Manchester United fan channels, Harry Maguire was one of those that they said had to play because of they were ready to have him up front in the 9 because they wanted him. They wanted him to be able to score. So I think we have a bit of players that have that winning mentality. What I would say is we have players that I think maybe hit their limit with us, and we should be willing to upgrade on them in the summertime. We have to, because we're in the Champions League. We absolutely have to. We're right now at Europa League level, and we won. We showed that. But to do anything in Champions League, we're going to need, like Adrian said, some named players that bring some real gravitas to the team. And I would love it if we could find another player to build the team around. Like if this was Harry Kane, build the team around Harry Kane. We didn't, unfortunately, really build the team around Harry Kane, and he left. So I think that this is a good opportunity for us to instill that winning mentality. If we do keep Ange, that's fine. Does he deserve it? Sure. He won us this trophy. But we'll need to back him. We need to give him ready-made players that can develop into his system of play for this next season, because we see what happens when we don't. We wind up with injuries. We wind up with the youth playing for us, and no one wants that, because then we have a 21 game loss season.
Right. Right.
You know what's funny? To your question about
Yeah.
control, like the possession. I remember games early on in the season where we were losing 1-0, 2-1, and the stats showed we had 70% possession. And I was one of those people saying, "Oh, look, we dominated. Look at the possession numbers." But then when you rewatch the game, you're like, "No, that team allowed us to have possession. So those numbers are meaningless." And in this game, I felt the same thing. I was surprised a bit that we gave up possession so early in the second half, that we just went into low block. I thought we'll do it maybe a bit later, but I felt like we were in control of the game. We gave them possession, so those numbers were meaningless. The only way they would score was either from a mistake, which almost came with Vicario, or like a headed goal from Maguire. But the statistics were meaningless. We just gave them possession, and we did to them what teams do to us usually, and they could
like
not,
Nottingham Forest.
they could not break down the low block like we couldn't do in the league in the beginning of the year. So it was just interesting how things shifted, and we did to them what teams do to us. And I felt like we were in control the whole game, the whole second half. It was nerve-wracking. I was stressing out. Every cross, I'm like, oh my God, Maguire on the end of the cross would be a problem. But as far as the actual game, I felt like we were in control the whole time.
Yeah. It's been a running theme the last 2 or 3 European games, though, right? Because everyone said it was going to be, hard against Frankfurt. Everyone said going away to Bodo. But we've controlled arguably the majority of the last final, 2 semi-finals, 2 quarterfinals. So the last 5 games in Europe, we've arguably, without a shadow of a doubt, been the better team.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just interesting too. We had 4 clean sheets or 3 clean sheets in the last 4 games in Europe.
Yeah.
Again, like where was that in the league? Like the way we played, and people can say the competition wasn't great, this and that, but again, you play who's in front of you, and
That's
just
it.
it's not of an it has to do less with the result, but more with the approach, and that's where Ange deserves all the credit in the world. He looked at the competition, he looked at us, and said, "What's our best chance to win?" And
Did
we did that, and we
didn't
controlled
Frankfurt
every
win?
game that we played in the cup since Frankfurt. I mean, Frankfurt, Bodo, and United.
Yeah.
When did
Fair play.
Frankfurt win? Didn't Frankfurt win Europa not too long ago?
They won it
Glasgow.
under They won it under Glasner. Actually, it's funny you
Yeah.
bring that up. Oh, Mr. Flavor of the Month. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is definitely flavor of the month.
Yeah.
Everybody-
We've been
everybody-
joined.
Drew, I
Yeah,
gotta
we've
run.
been joined by
Apologies.
Mr. Dermatron, but I want to say goodbye, Eugene. I want to
Yep.
say thank you very much. I saw
Yeah,
the little
thank
note
you,
Big up,
guys.
saying you had
Eugene.
to.
Big up.
pleasure.
We'll get
Yeah,
you
to head
back, mate.
off.
We'll get you back. It's no escape.
Adrian, Allen, Drew, Dormo, to congrats. But yeah, I'm still on the cloud nine. Super happy. Congrats to everybody. Long time coming. So keep it going.
I'm
Again,
so
all the
pleased for the young
discussions now,
generation first, man. So
managers,
pleased.
players.
Yeah,
We're champions of Europe. So let's keep it going.
nice one, dude. Really appreciate
Big
your
up,
time,
boys.
man. Thank you very much.
Nice to see
We'll
you,
soon.
Eugene.
Thanks for having
Okay.
me.
Big up, Eugene.
Okay, let's add Dermatron to our WhatsApp group. You carry on talking while I do this.
I do you know what, Drew? I was thinking about Johnson when he got that winner, right? And you, me, and Dave's show, right? And you, me, and we both, I know I said in there Johnson would get the winner. And you, me, were bigging him up. I thought of you as soon as he got that winner, my mind went straight to you. And I said, I bet you Drew's jumping around like a madman at the moment because Johnson got the winner. But I've been listening tonight. Great show, by the way. Absolutely really enjoyed watching it.
Thanks, mate.
But I think Ange has done something only two other men have done in our club's history. And Adrian will know this more than anyone. Bill Nicholson and Keith Birkinshaw are the only two other men that have won us a European trophy. Ange Postecoglou is now landed himself in that little club of being the third man to win this European trophy. Ange deserves next season. He needs to be properly backed. Paratici is coming back with Gabbiadini. So they're both coming back, and they'll both be announced probably, I think, at the beginning of July. End of June, beginning of July, around that sort of date. And I think Ange will take us to the next level. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win us the league, because I think you need to spend loads of money to win the league. But why can't we not do a cup double next year? Why can't we
what is the next level, Demo? Because obviously we've got as lovely as it is to win the Europa League, it's almost a bit of a shame because now we go into the Champions League, which as much as I love Tottenham and as much as I'm hopeful, I don't know that Levy is dropping enough money for us to compete with the very, very top. And because we don't drop down into the Europa League, unfortunately, it's now almost like, whereas this year there were 3 trophies realistically on offer, next year there's only 2. So what constitutes progress next year? Because there's an argument, do you just have to qualify? You have to qualify for Europe again and then make sure you win a domestic cup? And then what happens if you don't win a domestic cup?
I think pushing on for next season is top 4 and winning a cup, winning one or both of the cups, the domestic cups. I think we've done very well in the League Cup over the years. We've reached loads of semi-finals. We've reached a couple of finals ourselves. We've won it 4 times. FA Cup, we could have won more than 8 if it on the potch, if it was, for this or that or whatever. But I think winning the domestic cups and finishing top 4 and competing at the top end of the league is progression. And then you add to that, Levy's not going to drop a bomb in. We all know that, but he's got to. Somebody has to. Somebody has to come in and invest money into this team. And I think we will. I think we'll do well in the Champions League. I think we'll get to the quarterfinals. Honestly, do. Wow. I think we're either that or the round of 6. I really do. And it's all about Adrian again will probably be better talking about this than me. I was only young at the time, but I see a lot of similarities between Ange and the Birkinshaw side of the early 80s. There's that togetherness, there's that brotherhood, like there was with that team in the early 80s under Keith Birkinshaw, where everyone they were brother in arms, and I'm seeing that again under Ange. And yes, I was at the Crystal Palace game. Yes, it was absolutely dreadful. Yes, the atmosphere was woeful.
Right.
But I just feel next season's going to be different. I feel we're not going to go into this summer under a cloud. We're going in under sunshine. And we've got to build on that. And we've got to push on from that. And if we can do that this summer and really make a good start next season, do well and get a good start in the Champions League, get a good couple of wins under ourselves in the league and the domestic League Cup, and get in by Christmas, be in the semi-final in that. Do you know what? I think we could do well next season. But what do I know? I'm just a deluded Spurs fan.
You've always got a chance in domestic cups, because the League Cup, 6 games, you can win it.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And you imagine before last season, Dermot, I mean, like, everyone was going on about, oh, I don't mind if we win his 17th or 12th as long as we win a trophy, right? And now they've 4 league for them. Same fans are saying, like, well, Aaron should go because we finished bad. Yeah, but we've won a European trophy, you know. But I'll say it again. I said it early before I come on, and Alan and Drew were listening at the time, and I said, like, look, to fight on, I didn't say to fight on 4 fronts, but that was the main reason behind what I said, was the fact that we need to bring 4 or 5 players in, and we should have a £200 million war chest now. We will have 90 mil for the Champions League minimum, probably for the 8 games, 4 home and 4 away. Then we got through this Europa League, there'll be 40 mil by the time we play at Super Cup. That's without sales. That's 130 mil. If you put 130 mil, if you put like 25 mil down on 5 players, you've still got 5 mil left. You know, it's a question of like how much the selling club insists they want as a down payment, how much you amortize over 5 years of the contract, which most contracts, if you're getting a younger player in, a 25-year-old, you give them a contract with the option of the 6th year, because that seems to be pretty standard now, right? So, but we need to bring in oven-ready players, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I think we get a chance of getting Kuna now if we wanted him, rather than the man I'd like, Vlahovic, because at least Kuna's done it with Wolves in a poor Wolves side. So what's he going to do in a better team?
So, do we not run the risk of somebody like Cunha to, like, we've bought players like that in the past? There's a rumor that he was going to Man U, but is he not just another? Is he not just another sort of? And I've been an advocate of Cunha because I think he's a great player. But is he maybe just a little bit, you know, another one of those flirting with relegation, doesn't play European football? Like, when you say we need some ready-made, do we not need somebody that has played European football for a couple of seasons as well, that does have, you know, 50, 60 games? Do you know what I mean? Rather than somebody that's all right, maybe played for the majority of Wolves this season, but I don't know that they had very good cup runs. So I just don't know. I don't know, and I'm just putting it. I'm just putting it out there. Like, you want somebody with a bit more on their legs, right?
Yeah, I'd like to bring in Vlahovic as 2. I would like to bring in Fratesi, but I think we'll get Cardoso, and the cynic in me says we'll get Angel Gomez as well, because both those are on free, and we can get Cardoso for 25 million euros, which is 21 mil. So
is Fratesi available?
Well, he's not got much game time. I know he come on and scored the goal, didn't he, for Milan?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right. I didn't watch the game. I heard he got it. I thought,
I did.
Now maybe people will go and look at him, and he
was really good.
He's
good
dog in midfield.
Is that just somebody? Is that just somebody, Adrian, that you're hoping for? Or has there been rumours linking us to him?
More hope. Look, I don't think we're getting him. I think actually, if you ask me, we're getting Cardoso, and cynic in me says we'll get Gomez as well. But then, like,
Jonathan David, but he's free. He's on the free.
Now that we're in, we could get Jonathan David now over Vlahovic, because he's on a free. So you've actually given the money that he's worth on the transfer market, him and his agent, that money. If you don't break the pay structure, what you can do, you can say, well, look, we don't pay 250 grand a week, 300 grand a week. but we'll give you 200 grand a week. Instead of giving you a 10, 12 mil signing on fee, we'll give you a 15 million pound signing on fee or 17 million pound.
Yeah.
You can get round it
Make
that
up
way.
the difference, right?
And bonuses and blah, 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 and all the add-ons and shit that goes with it. I wasn't a fan of Jonathan David 2 seasons ago. This year he's kicked on. I don't think he's broke, got Canadians off their feet this season, or America. He plays for Canada, doesn't he? Canada, isn't it?
Yeah, Canada.
Yeah. So, all right, if we brought him in, fair enough. He's got a bit of experience. I'd still prefer Vlahovic. I think you'd get him for the same amount of money because since they've got Muani in at Juventus, and I just think technically he's better. But
And he's only like 25, I think.
yeah, he came from, was it Fiorentina, Atlanta?
If you look at the progression over the last couple of seasons of both of them, like Vlahovic has gone sort of plateaued, and if anything, tailed off a little bit, whereas Jonathan David just seems to have gone from strength to strength. But then also, what about something like, I know.
Again.
I think are we going to be in a situation where it's going to be a little bit sort of musical chairs? Because I know obviously them lot down the road have been sniffing around a couple of. I mean, it's obvious they need a forward, arguably more than anybody.
Yeah,
they were looking at. I know they were rumors.
Gyökeres
were Sesko. Well, the rumors were Sesko. The rumors were Gyökeres. Gyökeres is isn't he more of a left winger that comes inside? I don't think he's an out 9, is he?
No, I think he's the left winger that comes inside. If my memory serves me right, I think he is.
So is there one of those sort of, could you end up with a musical chairs where if one person obviously goes one place, then it moves up? Like I've watched Benjamin Sesko a couple of times, and I've been pretty impressed, and I don't know. I mean, unless his head's just been turned, and because there's been rumours that he's going to that lot, that there's just no chance. I don't know why we're not looking at somebody like that, because I think he could certainly do a job for us.
Yeah, well, now we're in the Champions League. I mean, you could go for Nico Williams. He's still at Real Betis. You'd probably get.
Well, this is that fork in the road that we were talking about, Dermot, the other week.
Yeah,
like we mentioned, if we lose, it's going to go one way, and we're going to be on probably a shoestring budget. And if it goes the other way, then I'm not saying there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but there's certainly more money in the pocket, right?
There is, and also I also think you look at the both managers. You look at Arteta and you look at Ange. Who are you more likely to want to play for? Who are you more likely to run through a brick wall for? Ange. Yeah. So you look at the players that we want to bring in. They're all going to want to play for us, because you look at Ange. He's a manager. He's a manager you would play for. You look at Arteta. You look at them not down the road. What have they done? Yeah, they may have finished high in the league, but who's had a better season at the end of the season? We have. Yeah. Because we've won a trophy.
Yep.
And you're going to look at that, you're a player, and you're thinking, right, where am I going to get my success? Okay, I can get a load of second places at them lot, but if I want to win something, I'm going to Tottenham. If I want to win bottles, I go down the road. And if I want to win trophies, I go there. So players are going to come. And you look at Ange, how many Maddison came to Tottenham because of Ange? You look at Danso. Was it Danso in January, or was it Danso? Wasn't going to come. No, Tell.
No, Danso was going to come.
It was Tell.
Yeah, Danso was going elsewhere. We wound up stealing Danso.
Yeah, but Tell was
going to Wolves.
Spoke to him.
Wolves, yeah.
So it's down to who your manager is, I think, as well at the end of the day, and what plans he can sell that player. And I think Ange can say, right, we've won this, we're going to build on this, and this is what we're going to do. If you Arteta down the other road, what are you going to say to him? Well, I can give you a load of bottles because we always finish second. We're not going to win anything, but I can give you a light bulb. That will, it's a signing on fee. So, yeah, no, they'll come to Tottenham. But I think out of the two, we've had a better season. I know our league and the season's been terrible.
I think we get Eze now. I think we get Eze.
I think we get Eze now.
I think we're going the other cynic of me is I like the look of Johnny Cardoso anyway, although I'd prefer Fratesi.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Adrian, I need the restroom.
Sure enough, because we can get him for 21 million quid, 25 million euros. I think
That's a snip.
Gomez wants to come, so I think we'll give
Yeah.
him. So I still think we're saying goodbye to Basuma. You know, who's been inconsistent. I'm not keeping him. I'm sick and tired of us replacing our trust when players play bad and then
Yeah.
play good, and all the love returns for them. No.
Yep.
You haven't been able to do it because you've had all season to do this to tell us what you're going to do, and you haven't done it. You've got your medal. You're lucky. I mean, he is lucky to be even playing in a final, because if we'd have everyone fit, he would never even got in the team. I don't hate the player, because I don't do hate at all. But like, I just think you are one lucky person, right?
I think
Very
Timo
lucky.
Werner's
Playing
lucky.
the final, you'd probably already got a medal, because if you're in the squad, I think each team gets 50 medals or something like that.
Yeah,
So
they do.
your
Yeah.
staff get medals now and all that old shit. You know, and your
Did
own
Glenn
team
Hoddle get a
don't
medal in '84, Adrian? Did the player did they get medals?
I
then?
think the rules were different then. I think there was a limited amount of medals.
Yeah.
But then if you're a football club, you'd strike your own medals and give them to your staff and management.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
But
so
do you see? Did you? I want to ask you a question, Adrian. Did you see similarities between '84 and this game? This in '25?
not in the style of the game. The game
No.
was a very exciting game. The only
Yeah.
similarity, which I hope doesn't come true now, is the fact that after the game, virtually Birkinshaw left. I mean, so Ange might go. You see it in the League Cup, didn't you? Ramos wins that, and then like next season starts poorly and he goes. I think he's earned another season.
I think he has.
It's arguable. I mean, look, I get that. If you don't like Ange or you think he's a mess, he's football, but look, don't tell me that a man is clueless when he's been 26 years in this game. Because we all talk sensible football. We're not coaches.
No.
And we what we don't see and don't know, we don't know what goes on at the training ground when the press aren't there, with the science teams and the other coaches. We don't know any of that, right? So that throws us, except for when you hear whispers like, I was told the other day that through someone I know that said Odebert, they like Tell, they really want to keep Tell. I hope it's a loan deal for him though, personally, another loan. And they were saying that Odebert's the most skillful player in that squad. Now, we know he takes players on, but we've seen about as much as Odebert as we've seen of Tell. I must admit, I love Tell's attitude on the football field. I love it when you're losing and all that. And he's improved in small increments each time I saved him. If it scored 10 goals, our fans be going like, buy him, pay the money, buy him, pay the money. And he'll get them. And if you go and watch Matisse Tell on videos on YouTube, watch him when he's playing on the left. Now, he may end up an Henry type player and end up playing through the centre, but he hasn't got that nous at the moment to play as a 9. When strikers got experience to dummy defenders and fall them, like whatever. I don't think he's got that nous because he's young, but he's definitely a talent. But we've got lots of players that are talents. We want oven-ready players that can do this. We need to bring. I mean, Sean today was going on about Ryan Cherky. Yeah, he looks good. And I think I posted a video of a couple of days ago as well of David and all that. He's improved this season. I didn't like him when I first looked at others. But Ryan Cherky looks good. He smashed it in the French league, right? If we're going to bring a young player in, then I think we've got to get rid of a young player.
Yeah, we can't continue to get more
We need ready-made players. We need players that have played Champions League football and that know what they're doing. Look, I've been following Ange. Look, I'm a massive Celtic fan as well as Spurs fan. I've been following Celtic since the day I was born. And being Irish as well, Celtic is the team you follow. And before Ange came to Celtic, we were a mess. We were an absolute shambles of a club. Ange came in and he just turned it on its head. I believe
he also got rid of a lot of players, didn't he?
He did, and I believe Ange Postecoglou will take us to the promised land. He's already taken us there. He will take us there again because he's a winner, and he will win things with us. He will get in that. He will take a couple of weeks off. He will get back into work late June, early July, and he will make sure that them players are ready for that Super Cup. Whoever we play, and we're going to win that as well.
If I was going cheap in the transfer market,
Yeah.
I'd go and get Vlahovic. I think you could get him for 30 odd million because he's on top wages. 30 to 40. I'd bring him in. Eze would be the expensive one, the 60 mil. Like you now spent 100 mil. We're obviously going to get Cardoso for 21 mil. So now it's 121 mil. Now we're looking at left centre back, left back with David Henko final could do that. You'd get him for 40, 160 mil. And I would go and get Vanderson, the right back at Monaco, because he's an absolute tank. He's the opposite of your doggy on the left, the Brazilian. I'd get him in. And like we would have probably, and you'd probably get him for about 25, 30 mil. So you wouldn't have spent the 200 mil. Now, that's if you're paying all that money in one hit. And we know it doesn't happen that way. Palace would want all their money up front. So you're giving them the 50, 60 mil, whatever it is. But the other players, you might only be putting 20 mil down on each of them or 15 mil down and amortizing the rest of the money over their five-year contracts. Right? So,
what do you think about this from audio about Gray going back to Leeds?
No, he's too good to go back to Leeds, and that wouldn't be a good step because as much as I like Jess and those on the Leeds channel that go on, no, he hasn't. The thing with Gray is when he's played at full back and left back, he's done well. Centre back, he got done a bit by Delap and all that. Like he hasn't really failed anytime he's been called on this season that much. He hasn't. And if you're going to play him in midfield, you've got to play him in there with like two regulars and an experienced guy beside him to at least like bed him in properly. And when he's had to play there, it's when we've put out what we would call a substandard team because we're
injured.
Europa League game coming up or whatever, or something like that. So, and everyone wants to see the Gray Bergvall in midfield, don't they? With either Madison or whatever, or Bentancur, So,
it's funny that we're bringing up this point. I was going to talk about this actually a little bit.
Well, just say, is that something like being as we're now? The one thing that I think was mentioned earlier on, I think it was a stream or a report. It might have actually been Ali Gold. He mentioned the giant leap forward that this potentially gives the club, just obviously in terms of the financial security, the potential to bring in, top tier players, arguably. So now, if you play this right and you do this, like arguably, not to harp on like back in the day, but if you're clever and you do a Sir Alex Ferguson style, Mr. Miyagi thing on this squad, then you could have Archie Gray, Bergvall, and arguably a Jamie Donnelly in the 10. And that could be your Carabao Cup midfield. And that could be the guys that you trying to, the one thing that I will say about Ferguson, he was so good at putting out a team that he knew would win the game. And when it was 2-3, 4-0 and they were comfortable, he would then sprinkle in the youngsters and you'd get 10 minutes here and 15 minutes there. And then that would weed out the ones that were good enough and weed out the ones that weren't. And then all of a sudden, the kid that was getting 10, 15 minutes is now getting the first half away in, the not quite meaningless game, but the group game in the Champions League because you've already qualified and that sort of thing. And he was so good at doing that. And I think there's just at times, on top of the fact that our squad has been horrendously mismanaged, it's always been a case of all or nothing. Conte was criticised for playing a team and essentially throwing the cup because the league was deemed more important. Now you've got, Ange, who has arguably had to sack off the league because the cup was more important. And I mean, the long and the short of it is, for the last probably 6, 7, 8 years, or as long as I can remember, we haven't really been able to balance the squad as you would want it balanced. We have to play all of our stars, and then you run the risk of, well, they're either knackered for the next game or they get injured or both. So we got an opportunity here that if we were to not, let me finish my point, Adrian, if we are clever and we maybe look at the likes of that Bissouma Bentancur axis that's come to fruition the last few games, and you think to yourself, do you know what? If you can extend him by a year and give, and maybe just do a couple of year contract, there's the potential to build on top of something that's somewhat already there, as opposed to almost having to, if you get rid of one or the other of those, then you've got to bring in two. And then all of a sudden the harmony is a little bit more disjointed. Like, is there something to be said for maybe just trying to add to what we've got, rather than getting to a point where we say, all right, well, we've done this and this is great and we've won a cup, but now I want him gone, and I want him to come in, and then all of a sudden you're expecting everybody to start to hit the ground running again. And I just don't see, you can't have a sea change and expect everything to start running smoothly again.
No, you ain't. And the other thing where I agree with you is the fact that you've alluded to the fact that you have to do the right due diligence. If you look at two of the players in their team that have done the most graft, Porro has played more minutes than the other player. He doesn't get injured, but then he's very involved in tackles. He goes forwards, he might lose the ball, put a cross in or something. Decky's the next one. But Decky takes a lot of kicks. There's a difference, but those two have been really well for us, right? Other players. So when you're doing your due diligence, it should also take into account the player's mentality. Is he a team player, introvert, extrovert? How's he around the rest of the team and all that? Because we ended up with Ndombele and his attitude was shit. So why wasn't that part of the due diligence process? It should have been. The psychology profile of the player should be part of that due diligence, right? It should be part of that.
Yeah.
And so as we don't waste that amount of money, because we spent an absolute fortune since it stadium. It was like
the one player you bring up, Adrian, you bring up Porro. I know you mentioned Kulusevski. The first player you bring up there is Porro. Who do we buy him from? Sporting. What does Sporting do? Most often, play in Europe. What was Porro doing? Playing 2 times a week for Sporting in their league and in Europe. He was the sort of player that fit this type of, even if it's not gung-ho football, 2 games a week takes a lot out of you. And like you say, Dermot, Alan, we've been guilty of buying players that just, as promising as they might be, they're not the ready-made players that we need to really get going.
We don't want glass ornaments. They break.
Yes, exactly. Oh, but with Bissouma, because you brought up Bissouma, and they may have been good together for a couple of games, but I think if anything over the last few years with Bissouma, we've learned is that he goes hot cold, and that I don't know if a trophy is going to change that in him. I just think that that's maybe who he really is. So I think there is the possibility of upgrading on someone like Bissouma. And I think he could go, if we sell him, he goes out on a high. Now he's part of a European Championship team, and that's very desirable. And something I wanted to point out, because you brought up Champions League football will make player recruitment easier. I also think it's going to make, from a business perspective, investment in the club easier. We had like Amanda Stavely kind of interested, and this is something I'm sure every investor's like, well, yeah, but you don't win anything. That's kind of, and now not only have we won, but we're in Champions League. So any investor will have the opportunity to invest in a club that's going to be exposed to Champions League. So this might be a time where
a very, very good point, Alan. I've not had anyone actually put a slant on it like that. So yeah, that makes a very good point.
Yeah. So, but as far as recruitment, I absolutely think, of course, had we lost the game, as you pointed out, Drew, we'd be scraping the bottom of the barrel, because we would have it was sell to buy. But now that we're in the Champions League, it would be negligent if we didn't invest in the club now this summer. It really would be. I mean, it would be bold-faced negligence if we didn't do something to bolster this squad to compete in the Champions League. And it can't just be a cash grab for Levy to say, "Yay, we made the Champions League again." We didn't have to make fourth. I did it in 17th. But but at the same time, he has to. Yes, he got that money, but we need him to reinforce the squad. We saw what happens if you don't reinforce the squad. You wind up playing players too much. They get injured, and then you have to rely on the youth or whoever else. You rely on your Timo Werner or panic buys mid-season to kind of bolster the squad just to make it through like a leaky boat. And we don't want to be like a leaky boat. We want to be solid the whole way through. And so yes, Champions League will definitely bolster us and
I don't want us to do what Chelsea did. They're going to be found out to be cheats anyway, so we can always laugh at them. As well, Man City, and I've not really got anything against Man City, but they've cheated since the days of Pellegrini and Mancini anyway. And that's coming right shortly. And that hasn't been sorted out yet, and we'll do a show on that anyway, because I've got all the charges and everything down. I've got all the history of that as well. So they're going to get busted. Yeah, but yeah, on the going forward, yeah, we have to bring at least 4 or 5 players, and Levy just can't snatch some of that money to invest, like in the hotel and things like that. He's got to invest in his team if this team's going to go forward. Because if you invest, then and the team improves, then obviously you will attract the investors that you're after, right?
Yep.
I don't like the
Absolutely.
I want a new owner. I don't want an investor, because the clue's in the word invest. Investors want to return money, right? I want a new owner. So, and the easiest way for us to get a new owner is actually for ENIC to sell their stake, or the majority of their stake, that gives the new owner the majority control over this football club. Because even Sugar didn't sell all of his shares when ENIC took over, right? So, and then we'll see how we go from there. But we definitely need to bring in 4 or 5 players.
I think where we've been negligent has been actually Scott Munn and Lang. And even going as far as back as Steve Hitchen, where we haven't brought the right players in to fit the manager's philosophy or the way the manager plays. And I feel the only time we had a decent window was under Paratici, when he brought in the likes of Romero, Vicario, and Porro, and players I think he brought in Jed Spence as well. Players like that he knew that he was building the squad, and he was good at that. Now Paratici is back now in charge of it. I would feel this summer's going to be very good, because he will go out, he would get players that Ange needs, that Ange will want in his squad. Ange will go to him, I want this player. And he will go out and buy the best player he can get for Ange that has experience. And that, look, he bought Perisic as well. And people seem to forget. Perisic would have done us wonders this season with all the injuries. So would Højbjerg as well. Højbjerg. I wish we never got rid of Højbjerg, because I think he would have done a job for us in our midfield. But on the investment or on the owners, look, I've been sort of seeping news about this for the last 8-9 months, that we will get new owners. They are after the ENIC side of the shares, and ENIC are willing to sell. So it's a case of getting to a right price. Now we've won the Europa League. I have a funny feeling Levy may say, "Do you know what? I've won this. I think it's time to move it on." And I think it is time for Levy. I think it is time for him to move on to the next custodian of the club and let them take it on to the next level. Because I don't think Daniel Levy, and this is not a Levy out thing or anything like this, from a fan's point, from my point of view, I don't think Levy has the best football side or the brains to actually take us to the next level. It needs to take somebody else with Paratici and with Ange, whoever's manager, to take us up to the next level, which is competing for the Champions League, competing for the league, winning domestic cups. And I think we need that change. I think we're ready to move on from ENIC and Levy. And
Levy,
Sorry.
I think even if they sell out, I still think what you know is with new owners when they come in, they got big plans, they're ambitious and all that. Is they're going to like try and grow the club. I mean, look, we've got an estimated 34 million fans worldwide. That is a gold mine to tap into. As some of them obviously will be in third world countries, and they'll buy their, you know, their dodgy snide shirts, like not because like that's their pocket, right? But a lot of those fans are there to tap into TV wise, advertising wise, all their sponsors wise, and all that. And what will happen with Spurs when people said, "Oh, I think we've reached our limit bringing money," and I said, "Don't you believe it?" I said, "We're nowhere near it." Imagine if you got an Elon Musk come in and took over Spurs Stadium because it looks like a spaceship, right? And called it a SpaceX Stadium. How many companies are Elon Musk involved in? Thousands.
A lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Hundreds, thousands, right? So then where you go as the main guy, right? Everyone else wants to follow. So that all these other companies think, oh, he's there. I wouldn't mind a part of that. I wouldn't mind sponsoring Spurs, right? Suddenly you've got hundreds of companies that want you to sponsor them or them to sponsor you. So, you know, and like you advertise for them and their businesses as well. And I just think like football is a long way from like being financially at some sort of a zenith that it can reach. I mean, even in the TV deals, for example, in theory, if the Premier League really wanted to kick on, you tell Sky and all these other companies to go and do one, and you set up yourself.
Yeah, you do your little Netflix thing, right?
Yeah.
Alan, you just dropped a little comment here saying you got to love us and leave us.
Yes, I got to love and leave you guys. Wonderful to be here. Awesome that we won. And I hope that we win on Sunday. I really want to go out on a high. That would be a high, too.
Be nice.
And come on, you Spurs.
There'll obviously
Nice
be videos out of
Thank you very much, dude.
players
We will.
putting their lappers on her and running around
right.
with the cup, right?
Yeah,
For sure.
that's right.
Nice one, Alan. Well, we'll see you. We'll definitely catch you probably next week or sometime.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Everybody, yeah, for sure. And everybody go over and subscribe to Alan YouTube at Team Tottenham Go. Nice one, dude. Thank you very much.
Take it easy, guys.
Cool.
Cheers, Al. Thanks for coming on, mate. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I tell you what, we've been going for 2.5 hours. We'll round off in a few. I just want to, obviously, the future is bright, I believe. I know there's a question mark here, but I think it is. There's obviously confidence going into the new season where there potentially wasn't before. I guess, Dermo, if you had to, I know we've been talking about potential players in, potential players out. What is the absolute most important position? Like if we do maybe not have quite the budget that we think we do and Levy does still tighten the purse strings, what's the most important part of the squad that needs looking at?
A striker. We need a striker that can look. We're never going to get another Harry Kane, but we need somebody that can go 20, 25 goals a season. You need that because if you look how many points Harry Kane got for us over the years, each season,
right.
Some of them goals were that got us into Europe. Some of them goals got us into a semi-final or a final. So, yeah, we need a striker and also we need a midfielder. We need a number 6. We need an experienced number 6 that can sit there and sort of be a captain without being a captain and just calm everything down in that midfield area. I think Bentancur is very good at that. When you see Bentancur play, he calms that midfield down. He's that's why I call him Uruguayan General. That was my nickname for him because he just calms it all down. So think
if we just got those two positions that you just called out, let's say Richie goes, we bring in another striker and we bring in a 6. If that's all we brought in, is the rest of the squad with a couple of youngsters sprinkled in? Is the rest of the squad good enough?
I think so, yeah.
I don't.
I do.
I
do. And look, and that's what I love about football. Football's all about opinions. Nobody ever agrees, and that's what I love about the game. I do. I think you bring back a fit Kulu. you bring back you do sell Basuma. I will agree that Basuma has to go, but you get a good number 6, and you get a striker, and you get Odegaard and Johnson going on the wings. You get Maddison going with Eze in the midfield.
You can't bring in Eze because you just bought in a 6 and a striker.
Well, was just say it then. Okay, damn you, Drew.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. If you get Maddison going in the midfield, I think we've got a great. I think we have a nucleus of a good team here. But I know Adrian's going to disagree with me. I'm going to love this, but go on, Adrian.
Well, no, it's just a question. I look at it because we've had such a shit season in the league. How much would a 6 and a 9 have improved us? Would that have been enough? And I don't think it would, not to fight on 4 fronts. So my take is we need a defensive midfielder. I don't like the term 6. We need a striker, as you say.
Yeah.
Right? I think we need a left back and a right back. Like I say, I would definitely go for Vanderson at Monaco, personally. I actually think being a cynic in me in midfield says, and look, you've got a 25-man squad, right? So if you've got 2 players in each position, that's 22. The extra third goalkeeper is 23. That leaves you 2 extra spaces. I wouldn't mind taking them as midfielders, simply because I was always taught when I played, and from coaching, that most games are won and lost in midfield, and it's a long, hard season. So I don't mind having, right, instead of 6 midfielders, 8. That's not a problem. Keeping them happy is not my problem. That's the problem of the manager. Right? So that's not an issue. No, it's not an issue for me. So I would go with the extra midfielders. But this squad is not capable of fighting on 4 fronts. We know as it stands now, it's not going to win the Champions League. You play 8 games and make loads of money, right? It's not good enough to win the Premier League as it stands. But if we got lucky in the transfer window and the players we bring in hit the ground running, who knows? I mean, because we've won, and they say success breeds success, because the Champions League and the Premier League are the hardest to win, I can see us winning the League Cup or the FA Cup, perhaps both, and still getting a European spot next season. As a minimum, I can see that happen. Because I know we will bring in recruits. It's a question of the quality of the recruits, and we'll all be discussing them because we'll all either like or hate them, which is normal, right? And we see where we are from there. But
Spud brings up a good point here, Lucas. We're going to lose Tell. We're going to lose Werner. Potentially Tell's still up in the air, and Son we still don't know about. So we don't know enough.
With Tell, I would take him on loan again.
Yeah, I would.
I'll take him on loan because I like him. But I like a lot of youngsters in the under-21s, but they aren't going to come in and play for the team tomorrow.
Right. Even I like Tell's attitude. I like Tell's attitude.
I love his attitude. I love
it. You watch him, right, and we may have done something wrong, and you can see him G'ing up the players. I think it was against Liverpool. He came on, and the first thing he did, he started to have a go at players. And I think Sonny was one of them. He started having a go at them, and that's what you want to see from your players. I mean, I keep harping the back about the 80s and the Keith Birkinshaw side and Graham Roberts and Paul Miller and Steve Perriman and Ozzy and all that. But as Adrian would tell you, I think you probably remember it as well, Drew. Everyone was a captain on that team. Everyone had the captaincy. Not one person. It wasn't just one captain. Everyone was a captain. And if a player made a mistake, he rollicked you for it. And you said, right, I better rock my game on that.
My thing with the captaincy has always been that I know it's different in a modern game.
Yeah.
But even back then, players were self-motivated because that's why we won trophies, right? But even though they were self-motivated, occasionally you get a Perriman and Roberts say, come on, lads, we need to just step it up a bit more. They weren't there to go and lambast players and things like that. And my attitude's always been with players, if you can't motivate yourself to play for my football club, then fuck off. You shouldn't need a captain to tell you to do that. And just fuck off because we don't want you here, right? And I'm serious about that. I mean, I
agree.
You shouldn't need a captain to motivate. At times you might think, oh, I made a or I gave a penalty away or something like that. Then fine, the captain go over, give you a hug. Look, put it behind you, get on. We've got an hour now. We're 1 goal down. We've got an hour to fucking win this game. That's different. There's different forms of psychology that can be used when you're the captain of a team. Today it's mainly PR with Sonny and that, you know. I mean, if you're going to think, oh, because players are a bit more aggressive, then like you'd make Danso a vice captain because he's done well, you know. Vicaro's all right, you know. Maddison, not aggressive enough to me. Sonny, not aggressive enough to me. Too passive, basically. Romero, yeah, you know. So, and we'll see if other players step up in that sort of way. But to me, the captain, he goes over at players if they made a mistake and say, look, you know, put it behind you, get on with it. You know, don't let it like destroy you or your game. You know, but I find that because we're such a shit season, fans are so desperate. They tell me, oh, there's not enough leaders in the team, or this is wrong, or that is wrong, or that was wrong, is that wrong? And they're clutching at straws. I get it. They want us to succeed like we all do. I get that as well. But like, no, you know, you're not focusing on what's wrong with the team. Basically, we don't have enough oven ready players, you know, and that is mainly what it is, because that's why we've fallen down the league. We've had these injuries. Well, you know, we got a squad of 25. Why don't we cope with it? I mean, even if it was a horrendous, which it's been, we still shouldn't be where we are. You know, if you've got a good, we're Tottenham Hotspur, right? And we don't talk about backup players. I had this 3 seasons ago, I'm saying to people, backup? We're Tottenham Hotspur. Why are we talking about backup players? People were talking about backup to Harry Kane, or no player will come up or be an understudy of Harry Kane. Think about it. If a player comes to this club, where Angie's right, when he says, like, I want players that want to come to this club because they want to play at Tottenham Hotspur, not because we're in Europe or this or anywhere like that, because we're Tottenham Hotspur, because that tells me they want to come and play for this club, not because, oh, they want to come and play for us just because we're in Europe. And I make him right. So if you don't want to play for us, go or don't come. I'm not bothered about that at all. Not bothered about that at all, right? Because we will always have players that want to come to this football club.
Dermo, thoughts?
And no, I have to agree. I agree with everything you say, Adrian. To be fair, look, for me, it's important that players that want to be there because they want to play for the shirt, they want to play for the badge. Players there that don't want to be there, then get out of my club. We don't need you. We don't take passengers. We want everyone there 100%, knowing why they want to be there. And I just feel we've got such a chance after winning this Europa League. We've got such an opportunity to go into next season, everyone firing under the one banner, everyone together, everyone fighting for the one thing, to really make a success of it.
I mean, I love Romero, but he's down to 2 years of his contract now. Now, rather than let him go down to 1 or 0, right? You either agree to a new deal or we sell you. The fact that I love you or not. I mean, like, then I'll also look at that to contrast that. You have to consider the fact, well, you know, the transfer market is still deflated in Europe.
Yeah.
If you're talking about,
well, you would think they're in a prime position now, especially with getting in the Champions League. You at least offer him a new contract. You bump up his wages. You offer him a get out after a couple of years if things aren't quite going, you know, the way he was hoping.
Give him a signing on fee or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. You kicked that can down the street, didn't you? And you know, so you try and get him. You try and get him for as long as possible. I mean, if you've got aspirations of being the club you want to be, Romero's not the sort of player you push out the door, is it? You do everything you can to try and keep him. And we've just made it a lot easier.
Than a UEFA Cup, right?
Right.
He's got no guarantees. I mean, like, if you went to Atletico Madrid, I mean, they are the third Spanish team recognised behind Barcelona and Real Madrid.
Right.
And then, like, have you got the money? Oh, we might have to sell to get him in. Well, hang about. You got to sell to get him in. Like, and you're the top third Spanish club out there. And you got to sell players to get him in. Even Barcelona got financial problems. Even Real Madrid have. Right? So, like, the days of them spending like 100 million on a Galactico are gone. They are gone. Barcelona sell part of their TV rights, part of their merchandise merchandising rights just to keep going financially. They ain't got the money. Clubs that have got the money are probably the less attractive leagues like PSG or Bayern have got the money. But like these others haven't. Even a lot of the clubs in Italy, Napoli and all that, talking about they're still trying to recover the money losses they've had through COVID. You know,
it's also to the fact that the Premier League is probably the biggest league in the world now.
it is.
And I think you look how much money the Premier League pumps in to
Why
teams.
Why do you think? Right? They wanted the Juventus hierarchy, the Real Madrid hierarchy, the Barcelona hierarchy wanted a Super League. And why do you think they wanted to take 6 clubs out of the Premier League? Right? Because they wanted to break as you alluded to just then, Dermot, they wanted to break the stranglehold of what the Premier League has on the money that goes into the game.
Yeah, and you look at the TV rights from, say, when Sky took it over in 92, 93, I think it was around, roughly 200 and something million back then, or 2 point something million back then. It's now sort of 3.5 billion for the next TV rights. So you look how much money is going into the game in itself. Now, you look at Italy back in the day when I was a kid. Italy was the biggest league in Europe. Italy and Spain. The English league was down in the dumps. Now the roles have reversed, and we've got the best product on the planet, and Sky have bought into that, and Sky have pumped more and more money into the Premier League. And now you're looking at TNT Sports as well, have pumped money into it. BT Sport, TNT Sports. It's the likes of Paramount's Discovery Plus is now getting involved in showing football matches. Prime TV's doing it as well. Amazon Prime, Netflix are looking to get in to come in to show Premier League football games. And so you look at the league and all the other European leagues. All them teams are struggling.
And the Spanish clubs and Real Madrid and Barcelona, and probably even Atletico Madrid. It's not like in the Premier League here. We have a deal with all that money coming, as you've alluded to, where there is like a share out down the tree, right? Doesn't happen in Spain. The top clubs get the majority of the money. They get the majority of the money and they're still struggling, right? And why? Well, because the Premier League's just a more attractive league. It's just more exciting. You know, you don't get the teams down the bottom half of the Premier League, right, stay in the league on their away form. It's on their home form. They'll always take a top scalp. That's why they stay in the league. The bottom 3 don't. They go down to whoever they are. But you always get, and every season you get this punch. Oh, shock result! This happened. Well, it's not anything different. I see every season. We see shock results every season when we think, oh, top team should go there and win, and they lose. You know.
Yeah, I think a shock result this season was seeing Tottenham winning the league. I mean, that was a shock. I think you have to laugh at this season. You rarely do.
Well, you take when it comes to favourites in competitions, right? You take us, right? We were favourites to win this Europa League when the season started, right? And we won it, so we justified that. But coming up to the final, we weren't favourites, right? Man United were, but or the pundits. Oh, and you get people say, "Oh, the bookies was always right" and things like that. Hang about. We've got a 34 million fan base throughout the world, right? Man United and Liverpool got better pedigrees than us. Don't like either team, to be honest with you, right? But they've got fan bases of about 100 odd million. So when it comes to me putting even a silly bet on a game, they're always going to be favourites against us because they've got more supporters that are going to bet on them. So that's on the bets, right? Now, when the logic comes down to it, it's like, what do you think about both teams? Well, both teams have been crap this season, right? And when people said, well, why were Spurs fans so I can't believe why Spurs fans are so confident going into this season. Well, because in years of old, if we were playing Man United in a final, we'd be thinking we're going to get fucking stuffed, right? Because they'd have bought the best players, got the best team, they'd be up there challenging for the title and all that. But this was different. This is a crap Man United squad. They've got good individuals. They can turn up on their day. but they're poor like us. But we're good on our day, but we've been poor. Although we've beaten them 4 times this season, won away and spanked Man City as well. So London's white, right?
And always will be.
Well, it won't always be, because it only happens now and again. We go up there and beat them.
North London, Adrian, will always be white, and you know that as well as I do. North London will always.
North London will be. It is white now.
Yeah, and always will be white.
Look, I think he meant to say Manchester's white.
Yeah, Manchester. Yeah, I when we go up to Manchester next season, I want the open top parade up there. I want them just bow down to us, say that we own you. But look, I don't know what you think, Drew. Right on all of this, with the transfers and the Premier League as it is, and do you think Tottenham now and English clubs in total are going to now start dominating European competitions? Do you think we're now going to, like we did in the early 80s and late 70s, early 80s, we dominated European competitions? Do you think we're now going to come into the same game and the same sort of thing again, that we're now going to start dominating European competitions?
I mean, I feel like if there's the way that the money's going, right? If it's going to continually be heading towards the Premier League. I mean, I think compared to when I was growing up, we already do. Like, there wasn't too long ago that you had Chelsea and Arsenal in a Europa League final, vying for who was going to get into the Champions League. We've had a Manchester City versus Chelsea in the Champions League. Liverpool have won the Champions League more times in my lifetime than not. I think we're already going that way, to be honest with you. And I can't see it other than, like you say, I mean, Bayern Munich are always going to be Bayern Munich. Real Madrid and Barcelona are always going to be Real Madrid and Barcelona. But even the likes of PSG are coming down from a Galacticos model, if, for want of a better phrase, to a more youth-centric setup. And they're reaping the benefits. I mean, they could be lifting the big-eared cup itself. So I can't see it going any other way. And to be honest with you, I think we've touched on it earlier, and I think you touched on it just a minute ago. Sort of the Netflix of football. I mean, I was watching something with Kieran Maguire, and he mentioned something. I think it was on the fan show with Carragher and Scholes and Neville. Regardless, I know you mentioned that the TV rights money has gone up, but if you actually break down how much the teams or how much the clubs are going to make, taking into account inflation and how much things have gone up, what they're going to end up with is about a 4% difference, so 4% more earnings than they did from the last time the deal got renewed. So in actual fact, because everything's gone up so much, because the travel, the accommodation for getting into Europe, the wages for players, that's gone up astronomically, and teams are struggling to keep up with that. So I think it's not going to be long before they fuck off the Sky and all that, and you'll have, I think Sean Butler said it on multiple occasions, big up Sean Butler, you're going to have a Netflix of football, where instead of the Premier League being paid whatever they're being paid and then divvying it out to, the clubs are going to essentially, or, you're going to be in a situation where instead of having to break up and put, pay Peter, pay Paul, pay Dave over there, people are going to subscribe to their own club. Essentially,
yes,
and they'll be able to kind of pick and basically it'll be a season ticket, and you'll be able to buy one-off games. You'll be able to buy, the A, B, or C package. Where the C package, it might just be all the home games, or it might just be some cup games, but it'll be exactly the same in front of the TV as it is actually going and buying a ticket, and they'll get 4 or 5 times the income. And that, I think, is going to be the only way the players, the clubs are going to be able to keep up with inflation.
The Premier League. Sorry, Adrian, I just want to get this in because I did read this the other day. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry, I apologise.
That's right.
The Premier League have actually now started their own production team. to actually show games live themselves. And I think the Premier League is going to go down and cut Sky out at the end of the day and do their own production. So I think Sky in itself will die out. And I agree with Sean Butler. Big up Sean Butler. And I agree with you what you just said, Drew, that clubs will do a Netflix style thing, and there will be A, B, C, and D. But like for content creators like myself and you lads and me, I do every watch along to every game all the season. I'm gonna have then to spend whatever it is, say it's 150 or 200 euro for the whole season for every game. I'm gonna have to pay for that. Where if you think about it, you're paying Sky what, 36 euro a month. You add that up for over the year, you're still paying the same anyway, or a bit more.
Right.
So I think it'd be worth the clubs doing it themselves, because go on.
And what that brings in, you see, when it brings more money into the clubs,
yeah, exactly.
That gives the Premier League, any of a stronger position to win most of these competitions. I mean, if you look at it now, even now, right? If we've got English clubs in the Conference League, we're thinking they're winning it straight away because we know it's not the greatest competition. If you look at the Europa League, which we've just won, even if we weren't in it, Man United were in it with us. You're still expecting an English club to win it. Now, in the Champions League, you'd expect a minimum of sort of like quarterfinals, right? Let's play in 8 games and 2 games in the quarterfinals, 10 games. So if you could do the maths between that Poxy, how they work that coefficient out, we're always going to get 5 teams in the Champions League. It's going to be 6 this year because Man United and Spurs finished out the top 5, and we're going to get in it. Then you've got your Europa League. Then you've got your conference. So the Premier League is so strong that way. As long as the money keeps coming in, and if more money comes in, it'll be even better, right? But we're always going to be. I mean, I remember a period where we would dominate. I think in Europe, we were winning all the competitions.
Yeah.
And I just see that happening again. Now, it's pissed all those off in Europe, but hang about. It was sweet when like you said, alluded to earlier in the years, when the Italian clubs, AC Milan winning everything, or when the Spanish clubs winning everything. Now we're winning everything. They're pissed off with it. All right, we're not going to win the Champions League this year, right? But we have a great record in Europe now, right? And I like it because I love my Premier League, right?
Yeah,
but,
I do too. I mean, look, I'm lucky enough, right, to see us win. This is our second UEFA Cup we've won. I was lucky enough to see us win the first one. I was 7 when we won it the first time round in '84. So I'm very lucky to see another one. And I'm so buzzing from it. And I'm still buzzing for it. But I love a Saturday afternoon, 3:00 Premier League. The start of the Premier League season, that week building up to it. And I know you be the same, Adrian, you be the same, Drew. You're buzzing. Because it's your bread and butter. That is what you look for week in, week out. The fixtures come out in June, don't they? And you look right, who we got the first game of the season, who we got the last game of the season, when we're playing Arsenal, when we're
I used to remember when it came out, and you go through and you'd have a printout or something, and you'd write 0, 1, or 3 next to what you thought, and then you tally it all up. You're like, right, 74 points this season, lads.
Yeah. But I just think the Premier League. Look, I remember the old First Division. I actually used to love the old First Division as a kid, and having the Sunday game or whatever, BBC or ITV showing it. But when Sky took it over, they took the game to the next level, and they keep taking it to the next level. And the Premier League has got bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is also why I think you alluded to earlier, Adrian, that the Man City thing, they're going to have to get this right. Because if they don't get this Man City thing right, it's going to damage what the Premier League stands for. It's going to damage the product of the Premier League. And then TV firms, whoever is that have bought rights for the Premier League, will be looking elsewhere. They might be looking, we'll go to the Spanish league now. We might go back to the Italian league. So it's so important that the Premier League get this Man City thing right. and it pleases the rest of the Premier League teams, because if Man City get away with this, I can see other teams going up to the Premier League and say, right, we want something done about this. We're going to put in appeals for this. We're going to charge Man City, whatever, take them to court. Because it is the integrity of our game, of the British game, is so dependent on what comes out of this Man City thing.
The
It
thing
really
is,
is.
it's such an embarrassment for, and I've done this. This is for a future show. I don't know how long you guys want to go on. I can go on forever, me. But I mean, like, look, these are.
I've actually probably, Adrian, I've got to wrap it up probably in the next 5 or 10 minutes. So.
Okay, but just to give you an example about the show, right? They face 115 charges, 54 times failure to produce accurate financial information from 2009 to 2009, 14 times to provide accurate details of player management payments for 2009, 10, 2017, 18. That goes back to Pellegrini and Man City. Now, if you refuse to cooperate, you're going to get fucking points deductions, in my opinion. Now, so now moving on, right? Because I've made these, right? 5 times failure to comply with UEFA rules on financial fair play from 2004 to 2007. 7 times breaching Premier League's PSR rules, 2015-16. Right. 35 times failure to comply with Premier League investigations. Now, this is sticky because you're failing to comply. If you're being a hindrance to the investigators, you are going to get done on that, right? So I see points deductions here. I see the minimum happen to them. They're going to be found guilty. The minimum they're going to get is points deductions and transfer embargoes. If you look at what happened to Nottingham Forest and Everton on their points, for minor discretions, they were getting 4 and 6 point penalties. I remember, I'm not quite sure what they ended up getting, but they got that for that, Dermot. And these charges are worse. And Chelsea, they're in deepest shit. When we try to get Willian for us and he went for them, fine, he chose them over us. That's not the issue. The issue is that some of these players were paid part of their wages through third-party companies, right? This is what was going on. We've now had them try to sell the hotel to one of their own companies to get around PSR, try to sell their women's team, and it goes on and on and on. And when Todd Bowley went there to sort it out and he offered up, oh, look, we got a discrepancy, I want to clear this up. Now it's like they've dug into it and it's got worse and worse. And I will laugh my head off if Chelsea got relegated or even Man City, because I just want to be found guilty. The only reason I want to be found guilty as a Spurs fan is because then I can turn around and say to any Man, although I've got no gripes with Man City fans, only Chelsea fans, well, since you had Abramovich, every trophy you won was fake because you cheated. And and go into the Abramovich situation as well, right? Governments know he was involved, like closely involved with Putin and Russia. Governments know there's a lot of dodgy people in this country, in London and all that, and they come out. And when they put millions in the economy, blind eyes turn to it. They're creating hundreds of thousands of jobs, fine. And they'll move against these people when it's like, when they find it most expeditious to do that and go against them, right? They chose to go against Abramovich. He's got a club worth $2 billion, whatever it is, and he walks away without taking the government to court. Well, that doesn't happen unless you're crooked and you know they've turned and said, listen, you're staying here, you're going down. We'll take you to prison. We'll go through long legal cases against you. If not, just the club goes and you leave the country, because they wouldn't even give him British citizenship before he took over the club. Now he's got Swiss or Israeli citizenship.
I think so.
And I think he's in Turkey now, something like that.
Yeah,
so
it makes Daniel Levy look like a saint. It makes him look like a genius, to be fair. Compared to all them other owners, I think we're better off with Levy, to be fair.
Well, Levy's not been brilliant for us on the football side of things.
No, business side, he's been genius. He's played a straight bat. Right? Whereas the others haven't. I mean, Newcastle, they balked at going overhead with like buying lots of players for top money once they realised what was happening with Man City and Chelsea. So, and their owners are worth 36, 37 billion, right? Yeah.
So they're the richest club on the planet in theory, but you can spend as much as you like on infrastructure. You can go and build a new stadium. You can spend on building a women's team. You can do this with your academy and all that, but you're restricted when it comes to the amount of money you can spend on players. It's all profit sustainability. So you just can't spend what you want, which is what they like, and which means that basically the richest owners in the world always win.
Yeah,
you know, which like if that's what you want in your sport, fair enough. It's not what I want. I want more of a level playing field, and we'll see if that happens. And yet, this is on the Premier League watch. You've spent 30 or 40 million on legal trials, right? So they're an absolute fucking disgrace, right?
Yeah.
And they're embarrassed. Now, the tribunal had already ruled on Man City, but there's no way they were going to like bring the results of that tribunal out in the middle of a season, because imagine all the repercussions would happen for that. That'd be explosive. So that's yet to come out. Premier League can't sit on this. They can't sit on this. They're embarrassed because it's happened on their watch. They're embarrassed because of that.
What's your gut telling you, Adrian? On I think they're going to get relegated. That
was my feeling. I talked to Jose. He goes like, "Oh, they'll get off scot-free." I get the cynicism. I get that.
I do.
Because with corruption in football, right, and football needs to clean up. I get the cynicism. We'll see what happened with Sepp Blatter and FIFA and Platini with UEFA. Corrupt as fuck, right? So what will come of it? Rightly, if it's rightly done, I think Chelsea and Man City should be relegated if found guilty, which I believe they will be. So we'll see. They should be relegated. I wouldn't take the trophy wins away from them, because then you're changing history and all that. I know City beat us in the League Cup final, Chelsea did as well, blah, blah, blah. But I wouldn't do that. No, you can keep your cheap trophies. We can all say to them, well, you're fakes, you're cheats. That's all you are.
Yeah, that's it. I would agree with you. I would totally agree with you. Right, I'm going to have to go soon as well.
Yeah, I'll play us out because
sorry guys. Yeah, I got a work thing that's come up that I kind of half forgot about, and I probably should already be at. So it's all good.
No, what Drew is doing actually. Hang on, Jay. Just saying, Drew's not going to work. He's going on a hot date. That's what he's going. That's what he's going.
About that.
Right. Well, before Drew presses the end stream button and plays you out with a wonderful intro, I've made loads of them. I have to promote the channel as usual. I mean, you will see, we won't see it as we're on the little YouTube logo in the bottom right hand corner. Please click on that and subscribe to the channel. If you like the content, please give the content a thumbs up, because that helps us to grow. It just helps with the algorithm. And if you can leave a comment as well, if you can be bothered. I understand most people don't on most streams anyway, right? That would be fantastic. I want to thank the 63 of you that are still in there at this late hour. We do have other links to other channels we've got. We've got a Facebook group of 14,500. We've got a Facebook page with about 300, but the videos go on that page. We have a Twitter where it's XCOM 3,200. The videos go out there as well. For those of you who are interested in that, if you're not, it doesn't really matter. I mean, but if you are, I always push content out in all those 3 areas as well as this. So, thanks for all of your comments in the chat, for your questions in the chat, and a real big up to you, those of you that come and watch us on playback. Yep. And with all that thanks I can do, I'll hand you back to Drew.
No, it's all good. And big up to everybody in the chat. It is much appreciated. The comments don't go unnoticed. StreamYard has introduced this thing where we can basically have all the comments scrolling in the corner. So I don't know if you've noticed, some of you noticed that or not.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to play it. I do like to dip into the comments every now and again and pull out some questions. I'm aware that we haven't done that so much tonight. We've just kind of let people talk and sort of share their feelings. But maybe going forward, maybe we'll do a little bit more of a Q&A thing, and we can have some people actually drop sort of, questions highlighted in the chat. We can put them to one side, and then maybe, the second half of the show can be more sort of interaction with fans. Obviously, we don't want people to be left out, but we obviously don't want to derail the show and go completely off topic. So just some things that we'll be looking at, potentially going forward. But I do want to say big up to Adrian, big up to Dermo, big up to everybody, and a special big up to Just a Harmless Potato because he's in there giving us a clap. Big up, Spud.
Big
All
up,
right, mate.
Spud.
With that, the next show will be on Sunday.
Yeah.
Go on, Adrian.
Yeah, there'll be a show on Sunday. It's just around on what Drew just alluded to. We want to get the chat more involved, and obviously we are approaching the end of the season after Brighton game. So we need, if we're going to do shows, we really need your help and Q&As. If we're going to come on and talk about the transfer window, what's happening, what's not, then obviously we need your input as well on this, which will be greatly appreciated. Because it gets a bit during a close season, we have to think long and hard about is it worth actually doing a show? Because have we got something we can talk about content? We don't want to come on and just waffle. We're not that sort of show. We pride ourselves in being fact based, and we try as best to be interesting, right? So so you get the idea. So with that, back to you, Drew.
I think that's just about it, dude. Dermot, thank you very much. What have you got coming up? You got something coming up on the show soon?
Yeah, tomorrow
on your channel.
Tomorrow we've got
the banner.
Thank you. THFC Till We Die. We noticed we had the same ending as you, so that's why I put the we instead of the I, because we didn't want to get mixed up. So we're now THFC Till We Die. We've got a tactics show starting tomorrow. So a new one. It's a new show we're doing with James. We're going to talk about all the tactics for the Brighton game. And then, of course, on Sunday, we've got Before the Whistle, we've got the watch along, and then match reactions afterwards. And then on Monday, we're going to start our summer content with Ange and the summer transfer. We're going to look at the window. And then basically during the summer, it's just transfer window stuff. And basically, it's about it. Just a lot of summer content coming up. So we're going to be very busy. But please do like and subscribe here. It's a great channel run by a great bunch of individuals as well. I've met Adrian a couple of times. I always like listening to Adrian. I always like listening to people that know their history, and he's always a pleasure to listen to. Drew, I know Drew too well from the Irish Hotspur. He really is. I'm like the little brother out of him and Soren.
You'll make him blush.
Mate, he's the little brother. He's older than I am. He's just put years on me. He's just put years on me.
Yeah. But no, I love working with Drew. I'm hoping in the summer you and me would do something, Drew, as well. And we'll do something as a link up with both channels because I would like to do that. I love watching your channel. I know. Please like and subscribe here, but also come over to HFC too. We're done.
And I hope you like the outro. Those that are still with us, it's different to the intro, but we got loads of outros and intros, so we like to vary it up. We'll give you different ones each
switch
time.
it up a little bit. All right. And on that note, is it really a minute and 42 seconds? On that note, everybody, have a good night. I'll see you later.
On that
Take
bombshell.
Care. See ya. Bombshell.